check. Mic check. Good morning. Happy Monday, everybody, wherever you are, however you may be listening. Thanks for making us part of your day. Beautiful day in Mesa, Arizona. High expected to be hot. I'm just going to guess hot today. And it's sunny as per usual. Wherever you are, I hope you're getting some sunshine. I just found out not everybody's kids are out of school. I was unaware of that. I thought school was just done for everybody except for those going like year round. But Jen's kid not out of school. My kid is out of school. It was quite an adjustment for this first week, and it will be the death of me. Jen's very excited, however, to share the house all summer with her daughter and be in each other's spaces. She was just explaining to me how excited she was for that.
She's gonna drive me absolutely insane. She's not even out of school yet, and she's driving me nuts.
Jen's gonna have to. She can't have those midday booty calls anymore with the roster. It's gonna be tough. Speaking of midday booty calls, how was your weekend?
It was okay.
Did anybody on the roster make it onto the court?
So I went out with two guys. I guess I met two different guys.
Two different nights, or are we?
Yeah. So Friday night or Friday afternoon, I guess. Then Saturday.
Afternoon date.
Well, I mean, like coffee. I guess meeting up for coffee. I mean, that's
okay.
It's considered a date, right?
Yeah. You do drink coffee, right? You're not Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
What is it that you don't do? Oh, you don't do the greenery. That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay. Leave time to stretch, Jen.
What? Oh.
Sorry. Okay, let's talk about coffee date. Who was coffee date with? Was this British person? That would be T, probably.
Yeah, no, not him.
Okay, who got coffee?
So coffee, he was I don't think I discussed this one in particular on the stream at all. We didn't chat a ton, and I think, which I don't disagree with this. When you're doing the online dating thing, you don't necessarily want to be chatting forever in a day, like being pen pals, meet up or whatever and see if you guys mesh.
Yeah, I sure don't do that.
So his pictures, I mean, he was a little older than me. I think he was like mid-50s.
Okay.
So like from looking at his profile picture, I was like, decent enough looking guy. And then he sent me a picture right before we met up, and completely different than like, to be honest, he looked like my dad. Like, my dad's not like, for a guy, my dad's in like his mid to late 60s, and my dad's not he's not in bad shape. Like my dad's but he looked like his like color. I mean, it looked like it could have been my father in some ways. It was odd. And so in his pictures, he had darker hair, and to me it looked like he had either dyed his hair dark and it was washing out, but it was kind of orangey.
Yeah, that just for men shit, it doesn't work. I don't know why anybody thinks that dyeing their hair later in age, like men specifically, it never works. It always looks like a wig. It never looks like a natural hair color. I've never seen anybody pull it off.
Well, even if you at least keep it up, but like it's like
hey, at that age, keeping it up's tough. Relax.
Yeah, I mean, it just had. It seriously looked like orange, like if for chicks who ever had their hair, like they dyed their hair red and it washes out, like you're at the tail end of your before you need to get re-dyed, and it's got like orangey tint. It had that.
Yeah. So you went out with Trump.
A little lighter, but yeah, kind of.
What's up, Boston Brian? Good to see you, man. All right. So how'd the date go? You had coffee, scones?
Yeah, I mean, he was nice enough. Like, he was a nice enough guy. And I mean, but it was just, what I realized for a lot of this is if there's not some kind of like physical attraction is, yeah, you have to be physically attracted to someone.
And
And
this was too old.
too old, too orange.
I'm sorry about that. How did
Yeah.
the no second date on the way?
No, no. So like, and I don't know if like I think I need to also look into what should be talked about on, like, what topics to talk about, because
What
it's,
do you mean you
I've
should look
noticed
into
last
that? Are
couple
you
of
about to chat GPT what topics you should
yes,
talk? Jesus
huh,
Christ. Jesus
yes, I'm gonna
Christ.
figure out some kind of
What if
outline
you
for her
just what
structure.
if you just talk to people like humans?
But I need some kind of like direction for this.
You need direction on how to talk to people?
They're not how to
I'll
talk to
help you.
people,
Put me
but
in
what
your ear.
topic,
Don't do chat
huh?
GPT. Just put me in your ear for the next one. I'll take care of it.
No, because it won't be good.
It will be good. Oh, excuse me.
No, it
Which,
would not be helpful.
well, I'm not single, so it must have worked.
Or the quality of men at this age are not very good. So we're sort of
Well,
just desperate.
I can sift through that quality.
Nah.
Nah,
No,
okay.
not now. I'm just saying, like,
Coward.
what topics necessarily people kind of should talk about on. I don't mean. I mean, I can talk to people. That's
Let's
not a
just
problem.
crowdsource it. What
Yeah,
should you talk about on a first date?
yeah. Like, shit. I mean, do
I
you talk about
find
your?
I find you should overshare on your first on your first and every date. That's how I operate. Just overshare always. Say the thing you shouldn't say. I actually think that's good advice though, because eventually you're going to slip up. So you might as well get that out of the way early and then just see if they're cool with it. And if they're
But
cool
I'm
with you,
not weird
yeah.
like that.
What's that?
But I'm not weird. I mean, like, there's not necessarily stuff that. I mean, I say I don't hide anything. I am who I am. So.
I use Chat GPT to craft apologies to my ex. Do you guys, is this a normal thing? Are you guys using
Yeah.
Chat GPT to communicate with each other?
Well, it's not necessarily communicate. It's like sometimes trying to figure out how to word something. Like, sometimes I get the extra mean on certain things.
First date is always about dong size. Yeah, sure.
So
If it goes well, they find out. Yeah.
I mean, and it's not like if when I do use it, I use it so it sounds like me. It's not like I'm using it's not like I'm making the words different than how I would say it.
Do you ever use Chat GPT to talk to me?
No,
You never have.
no,
Not in any negotiations?
no.
All right. Just making sure. I mean, I was just wondering.
I mean, we haven't done a whole lot of negotiations.
That's true.
I mean, I think for sometimes just figuring out how you want to say certain things, or
Why do you
I have
why do
used
you
it like,
trust the Chat GPT to get it right?
it's not that it's not that I'm use that's not it, not I'm what I'm saying is how I want to say it. If I want to put something in, like, I know what I want to say, but I don't exactly know what words I want to use.
Okay.
So
All right.
it's just sometimes to get like a little bit of some ideas of how to word it.
I think I'm just one of those people. Like, I think when if we have like a robot apocalypse, I think I'll be one of the last standing people, like just living off grid. I'm gonna have to figure out how to live off grid. But like, I hate how scripted life seems to be for a lot of people. Not for them. It's fine for you if your life is scripted, but for me, that's literally my nightmare. If I knew what was going to happen 6 months from now, I probably just would change course. I'd be like, I already know that's how it's going to end up. Let's do a different way.
Right. And static, you're confused. I'm not relying on it. Sometimes if I want to figure out I want to word something, or if there's a to apart certain topics, because I know people communicate differently. And, so you don't necessarily say things that are word it so it doesn't other people get upset. That's not static. That's not relying on it. It's not like I can't have a conversation without it.
Okay.
So
Hit me up. I have a script for Doomsday Chat GPT Dong Combos.
yeah.
Get a thesaurus. I would use Chat GPT for a thesaurus stuff. I do that
Yeah.
sometimes.
I mean, it's like if I have, there's like it's just different how to word something.
Gotcha.
You guys are really not. The funny thing is,
This was the
you
wrong
don't
crowd.
realize
This is such a.
they don't real. You guys are not realizing how it could be used, and it's not like every conversation. It's if different ideas of if you want to have a first date, what ideas out there, you can't think of something. So
Yeah, just a unscientific poll. If you are neurodivergent and really really despise AI, will you just put your hand up? Again, totally unscientific here. I'm just curious because I find myself like not wanting to use AI, but I know that it would be useful in a lot of ways. Yeah, there's a lot. I wonder if that's like a neurodivergent thing. That's a lot of hands. That could be it. All right. So coffee date with Old Man River didn't go well. What about date
Yeah.
2?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't that it didn't go well. It just wasn't a
Sure.
vibe.
4:30 came
So
around. He had to go to bed. It happens.
right. So then I went out with another guy on Saturday, and we met for like a drink and appetizers. And I mean, we had a good chat, good conversation.
What'd you drink?
Um, it was this like I think it was called a
Espresso
rum
martini.
runner.
Rum runner.
It
Okay.
was I don't necessarily like blended drinks, so
It's a rum runner.
so
I don't
yeah,
know what
I mean
that
it was
is.
decent. I mean
I'm
that's fine,
looking
but
it
so
up.
I don't know. Well, I may or may not see him again. Like we had a decent of time. I just like it seems like these last 2 days that they talked about kids, like things about our kids, and I don't know if necessarily how much you want to talk about kids on first dates.
I
So
don't either. Yeah, I don't I don't I don't even remember what we talked about on my last first date. Apps, what do we have for apps?
we had some
Hands,
Brussels sprout.
did we eat any digits?
No,
Did you say Brussels
that
sprouts?
was a one time thing. I don't think that's going to be an issue
No,
going
did you say
forward.
Brussels sprouts?
It was like air fried Brussels sprouts. It was something that
It's gutsy.
he thought was
That's gutsy. They smell like farts. That's gutsy for a first date. I appreciate it, but
that wasn't a dessert or not dessert, a vegetable that my parents fed us.
I like
But
Brussels
it's not
sprouts. They smell like farts.
these didn't smell like farts.
Okay.
But
Where did the date end?
we just left.
Okay.
We've texted a few times since then. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Not a love connection, but maybe some connection.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to seeing him again.
Okay.
The British guy wants to meet up sometime this week, and I don't know. I don't know if I'm the physical attraction. I'm not sure is 100% with the British guy.
What are you gonna go play shuffleboard?
He said lunch. I don't know. So.
Nikki, TikTok probably didn't unfollow me for you. I got banned. This is my backup account, so I'm banned forever on TikTok on my main account. That's probably what happened. Reminder, if you're seeing me right now on TikTok, check, see if you're following me. If you're not, give us a follow. Illusion said, my wife's grace is the only reason I am not single. That makes sense to me. Given every interaction you and I have had, that makes total sense to me. All right, Judd, do your thing.
That's worth. So that's worth saying. We'll see if there's where that goes. So all right, so we're gonna get going. We've got Monday, Happy Pride, first day of Pride.
Oh shit, that's right. Yeah, Happy Pride, everyone.
So so this is our job. Welcome back, like I said, on TikTok. If you haven't been here or haven't seen us for a while, the main got banned, so this is the backup. So if you're not currently following, if you see like a little red follow button, make sure you click that so you can stay here with us. So we do this each day, Monday through Friday from 9:30 to 1 Pacific time. So this is our job. We do this, like I said, each day, Monday through Friday. We've got a gift goal.
But not this Friday. We're off this Friday.
Oh, that's right. Correct. So no this upcoming Friday. And Hoodie, I'm glad you're here. I saw you. Hoodie sent me a DM.
He's trying to get on the roster.
That I timed him or I muted him in YouTube chat because he was getting all upset with people. So you might get muted again if you start making this about yourself. In fact, so
CSAM Hoodie is a devastating nickname. It's a tough one.
Yeah.
I don't remember the
Exactly.
story behind that, but there's something behind CSAM. And
Yeah,
oh, he was doing it for research purposes, right?
something like that.
He's
But
like a secret agent or some shit.
something, who knows? I mean, I wasn't part of that live, but yeah, who knows? Anyways, if you haven't subscribed to us or a paid member on any of the platforms, you might want to do that because we have members only events that are kind of fun. So if you're a paid member or subscriber on any of the platforms, you can join us for those members only events. We don't have one this Wednesday, right? It's next
Correct.
Wednesday.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, so join us if you're a paid member. So next Wednesday we'll be doing have we decided what we're doing that, or is that still
Nope. Up in the air. If anybody has suggestions for our next movie night, as always, you can send those to Jen.
Yeah. So like I said, we've got a gift goal that we need to hit each day because to keep the lights on so we can keep doing this each day. So Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, Super Chat all go towards knocking out the gift goal. We prefer some of the other pay links over the others because it doesn't take the platforms don't take as much from us. So if you guys help us out with that, knock out the goal sooner rather than later, then we'd appreciate it. If you guys disagree with our XP and want to come up and have a conversation, how you can do that is you send me a message on Discord. My Discord username is the same as the Venmo, so Jen with 2 N's, W 2 B's, the number 1. And I can bring you on. Check out the link tree in the bio on most social media platforms. You've got merch, Jay's on Cameo. We upload these episodes to Spotify. So did I ever tell you I took my dog to a playground by mistake instead of a dog park?
I didn't know.
The people there said dogs weren't allowed, but this time they let it slide.
Okay. All right. I missed Asta Sophia's. It didn't come through on my end. I said vacationing these days and send some greetings from north of Iceland to my RTP family. Shout out Asta Sophia. Thank you very much for the super chat and enjoy your travels. Amy said Hoodie makes the rounds. We got rid of him, but he made the rounds and everyone else kicked him too. So like a plague, he comes back. Well, the great news is we might be on TikTok, but we can't take guest requests from TikTok. And also Hoodie, I don't want to talk to you. So we probably won't bring you up here anyways. So do I ever smoke weed? No, never. I wouldn't dream of it. It's bad. Don't do it. You should never, ever smoke weed. It's bad for your mental health or something like that. Yeah, every day, every single day. I will, but basically as soon as we're done with this live today, I will. I had my daughter all weekend and her mom picked her up. It was like 8:00 and I forgot. We were just out meeting at the car and I had forgot I had pre-rolled a joint behind my ear and it was sitting there when her mom picked her up. She's like, long weekend? Yeah, it's a long weekend. And I also have this new friend who somehow, he must watch me. He always seems to make a walk towards the grocery store every time I go smoke, and then I wind up giving him the other half of my joint. So I don't remember his name. He's a very upbeat and positive individual. So try to do it. Try not to be tox, but it says account not found. Yeah, the username on this is RTP Media News. We have to figure out how to change that. We had an idea a while ago, and you'll notice if you look back, like you can see Ash posted some videos on here. We had an idea a while ago that we were going to take other creators and they were just going to post it on here, but it was going to be news clips, and we never really followed through on that. So now it's the backup account, and we'll go from there. Yeah, dude, definitely. He either has my schedule down or he can see me. Like where I live, it's a no smoking, like a no smoking complex. All the condos you can't smoke at, so you have to go outside the walls of the property to smoke. And there's only like 2 gates, and so he sees me go to one of those gates every time. Okay, let's get started. Let's kick things off with everybody's favorite pollster, Harry Enton, and I will get the video up right now. I'm going to fly through some of the news like a little quicker today. I have some stuff at the end about election interference, and I'm just going to be honest, like there's some shit that we're going to cover at the end of today that I'm not entirely sure what it means, and I would love for you guys to be involved in that. This is another live, like Friday's live, that probably isn't for everybody. This is MAGA. Certainly, it's going to be way over your head, so you may want to bounce once we get there. But if you care about deep dives, if you care about, let's call it conspiracy theory, or if you're trying to make sense of a lot of the confusing things that this administration is doing, it's going to be one of those lives for you. So this is one for me. This isn't for everybody else. And I think we'll probably see a lot of that in the next month or so. Congress is on vacation. There won't be a lot coming out of Washington. Usually I use like Forbes Newsroom a ton for congressional hearings, but we don't have any right now. So those are mostly going to be replays. So what you'll see in the next little bit is we're going to cover some stuff that we don't normally cover. And some of that might be more conspiratorial, and some of that might also include more from you, the audience. And I also want to just put out there that if there's something you feel like we're missing, that you have a lot of expertise on, and we happen to be talking about that, I am open to bringing up friendlies in the next week or two. If you have some context that you can add to the stuff that we're covering, if you feel like you can add some context to anything we're covering, please just message Jen during the live, and I'd be happy to bring you guys up. But you'll just make sure you're part of the Discord. I see Saracen said, should Americans start saying "Hail Israel"? We'll get there, maybe. We're getting close to that. But let's talk about some of these numbers. Specifically for Trump, he lost a couple lawsuits. One of them is that he has to take his name off of the Kennedy Center, which makes sense. His concert is basically canceled now. His 250 celebration concert, it's going to be replaced by a Trump rally because everybody but Kid Rock canceled. Nobody wants to be involved with him anymore. But again, for a guy who studies his numbers and knows where he's at in the polls and historically has done a good job at least messaging to his base, it's bizarre to watch Trump not give a goddamn about his base.
Jordan here. Stop it. Just stop it, the American people are saying to the President of the United States. You could see right here, Kate's laughing.
Oh, sorry. Amy said, go Spurs, go, and happy Pride. Yeah, congratulations to the San Antonio Spurs. I don't know what San Antonio did to deserve what they get, but every time things are going poorly in San Antonio, the basketball gods are like, here's a generational 7-footer that nobody can stop that we'll just put on your team.
Off there on the side. I mean, just look at this. Naming government buildings after Trump, acceptable right now as he is president of the United States of America.
Kid Rock wasn't on the roster. Now he's added. That sucks.
Just 9%. Just 9%. Literally, you can put it on your two hands. When you can put something on your two hands, you know it's a very small section of the public. My little footnote on here includes just 17% of Republicans. 50% say not acceptable at all. The clear plurality here. And then you get this additional 21% who say, you know what, it's okay to put President Trump's names on government buildings, but only after he leaves.
Oh, it's Vanilla Ice that's still going to do it? Okay, I got bad information. I heard Kid Rock. Vanilla. Jesus. Well, listen, you got to take heed. Okay, he's a lyrical poet. You know, he's from the same place as Trump down in Florida. Miami's on the scene, just in case you didn't know it. So I guess that makes sense.
Office, but the bottom line is this: greatly unpopular President Trump or the government putting his name on government buildings. I think the American people are standing up and applauding the fact that Trump is leaving this aside because the American people, simply put, are not with it.
Okay, perspective is impossible these days, but
yes.
Offer me some perspective, please.
You know, I try and complete the impossible. Mission Impossible, a great television show, a great film. I like both of them, and I like attempting Mission Impossible. Okay, Americans who believe it's okay right now to name government buildings for Trump, just 9%. To put that into some perspective, 10% of Americans believe that the Earth is flat, and 12% of Americans think that the moon landing was faked, which of course it was not, and of course the Earth is actually round.
I think there's a ton of overlap here. I would guess that there is a significant amount of overlap in these three numbers. The people who think Trump's doing a good job and should have his name on buildings probably also believe the Earth is flat and the moon landing was faked. I mean, I saw somebody, I don't remember who it was. I saw a clip the other day and it was just like, he has to do this. He has to name shit for him now because nobody would ever name anything for him later. That's what we're setting up here. Anything that winds up staying named after him, it'll be renamed later. And the 8 people that still love Donald Trump will throw a fit about it. It's pretty pathetic as just like a human. It's pathetic for him as a human to want to do this. It's more pathetic for the sycophants around him to be like, yeah, let's do that. Let's name things after him. He's doing so well.
So fewer Americans think it's acceptable right now to put President Trump's name on government buildings than believe 2 conspiracy theories, either the Earth is flat or the moon landing was fake. And when you're lower than that, you know that you're doing something quite unpopular, which, again, I'm going to pull out another quote, Siskel and Ebert, 2 thumbs up the American people are giving right now to the idea that President Trump is just going to walk away from this Kennedy Center fight.
How does this fit in kind of the broader, larger context of President...
The moon landing was fake, though. No. I don't know enough about that, but I've never heard a compelling argument for it.
Trump and his name and all of the focus.
Yeah, okay. President Trump got elected to a second term to deal with inflation. Of course, right now, what we're talking about is President Trump getting record low ratings on inflation, not just for himself, but for...
Oh, that's right. It's Happy Men's Mental Health Month, Jay. Did we? Yeah. All your favorite dirtbags on TikTok are going to be saying Happy Men's Mental Health Month. I hate that it's become like this opposition to pride, but men, take care of your mental health, please.
Any president, and it just goes back to this. Trump on issues facing most Americans, focused enough, just 29%, just 1 in 3 Americans say that President Trump is focused enough on the issues facing most Americans. The clear majority, the supermajority, more than 2 in 3, 68% say no, he's not focused enough, and that is why his approval rating has been full.
I would forgive everything he's ever done and call him the GOAT if Trump sang every song from every artist that quit himself. Just Moss said, I live in a smoke-free complex. I put dryer sheets on the end of a TP roll and blow through it out on my patio in the storage. Thank me later. Ooh. Oh, okay.
Polling in the 30s in multiple polls because he's focused on the wrong issues. He's focused on putting his name on the government buildings. They're talking about, what was that $250 commemorative bill that we're talking about right there? Dude, again, just to quote Michael Jordan, stop it, stop it. Focus on inflation, focus on the economy, and then maybe your approval ratings will actually get above 40%.
Harry Anton.
Kate Baldwin.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, does that make...
That was a great job, Kate. Thank you.
Great job, Kate. Does that make the weed taste like a dryer sheet, though? It's crazy. I don't want to smoke a dryer sheet. I don't mind the walk. In fact, a lot of times I go out, I smoke, and then I go walk for like 3 or 4 miles. I like doing that. There's nothing better than getting absolutely blitzed and then going on a walk. One of my favorite things to do. All right, this is a rare win. I didn't think in my life I would ever on this channel show a clip from Kill Tony. Tony Hinchcliffe has a program where he brings up stand-up comedians. They can do a 1-minute set and then they get judged. This is a regular. I forget his name. I'm fairly certain his accent is fake. Like, this is the character he plays. If you guys watch Kill Tony, you might know it. But this joke baffles Joe Rogan. And I want you to just be patient as you watch this joke, because it feels like it's crossing a lot of lines, and it might be, but it's a really well set up joke. And kudos to whoever this guy is. I forget his name, but he pulls off a great joke on Kill Tony.
They tried to nail which floor it was on. They're like, the whole building goes.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't give a fuck. The Mossad is crazy, Joe. Don't upset the Jews.
Where's that yarmulke?
Huh?
Put it on.
What's that?
Put on the yarmulke.
I love the Mossad.
Wow.
Israeli Secret Service.
Tell us.
See, okay.
Joe is so scared. He's like, my handlers, not my handlers. Ari Mati is his name. Is that his name? Joe's so worried about his Spotify deal right now. Not my handlers, the Mossad.
Tell us more.
I will. See, like usual Secret Service, CIA, MI6, they gather.
This is his real accent? Is it really? Just relax, Patrick. There's like 15 comics on Kill Tony that use fake accents. Relax.
Information, and then they killed the guy, like with cyanide, or they poisoned the soup. Nobody even knows what happened. Mossad gathers no information, and they just blow up the whole building. Mossad always has civilian casualties. So they're after one of the leaders, okay? And they find him in Oslo, Norway, disguised as a pizza delivery guy. Great disguise for a terrorist. You have a bicycle, bling bling. You got some pizza boxes filled with fucking C4, you know. You're meeting creepy guys in the alley. You're a fucking pizza guy. So the Mossad tracks this guy down. They pull up on him in a car in Parliament Square, downtown Oslo, blow his head off with a shotgun. Brains go flying into the guy's friends' hands. They collect the brains, you know. The Mossad disappears. Successful mission, you would think. 6 months later, they find out, wrong guy. Regular pizza guy.
Yeah, this is the Lillehammer affair. Israel's intelligence agency Mossad killed an innocent Moroccan waiter named Ahmed Bouchiki in Norway in 1973, having mistaken him for their intended target. That's a great joke. That's a great joke. And also not a joke. Mossad, they always have civilian casualties, always. And then somehow they get the United States and bags of cash Donald Trump to just defend their every action. So I appreciated that. I liked that joke. And it segues nicely into this clip. I believe this was a couple weeks ago with Netanyahu, but I hadn't seen this clip. We don't have a ceasefire, apparently. Apparently that ceasefire is dead. Over the weekend, as Donald Trump announced that we may have a ceasefire, and the Iranians said, hey, we'll talk about it, and then we'll send back our list of demands. Netanyahu and the Israelis basically said, no. Ben Gvir's like, no, you guys aren't done yet. None of you are done yet. And here we have Netanyahu saying, I dictate this war and decide when it's done. And it kind of seems like that's what's going on.
Is the war with Iran over? And if it isn't, who will decide when it is?
I think it accomplished a great deal, but it's not over because there's still nuclear material, enriched uranium that has to be taken out of Iran. There's still enrichment sites that have to be dismantled. There are still proxies that Iran supports. There are ballistic missiles that they still want to produce. Now, we've degraded a lot of it, but all of that is still there, and there's work to be done.
How do you envision the highly enriched uranium will be removed from Iran?
You go in and you take it out.
With
who? You? Israel? You guys gonna go get it?
What? Special forces from Israel? Special forces from the United States?
Well, I'm not going to talk about military means, but what President Trump has said to me, I want to go in there. And I think it can be done physically. That's not the problem. If you have an agreement and you go in and you take it out, why not? That's the best way.
What if there is?
Yeah, that worked pretty well in Iraq. We just can go in there and get those weapons of mass destruction. We never did find those weapons of mass destruction. They just kept telling us, oh, they moved them. No, they're not there anymore. We'll stay here for 5 more years. But we'll totally get those weapons of mass destruction. We didn't ever get those, did we? Whose intel was that? Was that Bibi dragging us into Iraq too? Same exact story. How many more times are we going to follow for this shit from Bibi?
Isn't an agreement. Can it be taken out by force?
Well, you're going to ask me these questions. I'm going to dodge them because I'm not going to talk about our military possibilities, plans, or anything of the kind.
And I'm just trying to get at how long is...
Yeah, why would we need to know anything about Israel and their military capabilities and their nuclear program? We don't need to know that. We'll just keep following them blindly into the dumbest fucking wars possible. That's great.
Is it going to take to achieve that aim?
I'm not going to give a timetable to it, but I'm going to say that's a terrifically important mission.
Why? I don't understand why this is a terrifically important mission. Well, I guess we'll wait. Or I guess we're just still supposed to be afraid of Iran. They're just big, scary people over there. They're causing so many problems for the United States that we're just going to do ground troops now. Yeah. You guys want to do ground troops? You guys pumped about ground war in Iran? No new wars guy taking us into a ground war? That sounds like a good idea. Dick Cheney had already mapped out Iran for different oil companies in Iraq before 9/11. You can find them through the CIA released documents. Yeah. You talk about the bill to integrate us with Israel. I haven't read it yet. I saw it. I don't think it's going to pass, but I haven't read it yet. I saw it this morning. I was on dad duty all weekend, so I haven't read it. Amy said Iran suspended indirect negotiations with the United States in protest of Israel's expanding military offensive in Lebanon. No more talks at all. Saw that this morning too. Why do you think Israel's attacking Lebanon? It's exactly for this reason. Israel's not going to, they're not going to obey any ceasefire. They don't want this to be done. Like, how many more times does Israel have to fuck up a ceasefire? Every ceasefire we've been involved with Israel, they violate. Every single one. Is there any that they haven't violated? Of course, they're stealing the land, right? But I'm just saying, why are they doing it right now? They're doing it right now because they want to fuck up the negotiations. They don't care. The red heifer. Yeah. We covered that a while ago. I think if you look up on our channel, if you look up like the red heifer, you can see we did a whole episode on the red heifer, which is crazy. All right. Moving on. We'll get back to Israel a few times during the show today, but moving on from that. This is bad news for Donald Trump and good news for America.
By a federal judge, essentially reopening President Trump's lawsuit against the IRS to investigate allegations of fraud. It all surrounds the settlement with the DOJ that created a nearly $2 billion compensation fund for people claiming they were unfairly targeted by the Biden administration. Here's ABC's senior White House correspondent, Selena Wang.
Tonight, a string of stunning legal setbacks for President Trump. The judge who...
All right, some of you don't know about the red heifer. There is a, let me just pull it up so I can get it exactly. We'll go through that. There is a prophecy. Let me just explain the red. A heifer is a cow. It's like a red cow. There's a prophecy. I want to say it's like in Leviticus, but I might be wrong. Let me get where it's from here. Numbers. It's in Numbers. Numbers 19 describes a special sacrifice of a perfectly red cow that has never been used for work. So it's just a born and bred, perfect red cow. And there's like, you can go through and it doesn't say like exactly what it would be, but there are people who breed red cows for this reason. Heifer is Pam Bondi. Key points from the text. It must be completely red. Not even a couple of non-red hairs can exist. So that disqualifies the bull from being red. It must be without defect or blemish and never have worn a yoke, meaning it can never be used for work. The animal is slaughtered and burned outside the camp. Its ashes are mixed with water of cleansing, and then those ashes are then used to purify the people who become ritually unclean through contact with the dead. According to Jewish tradition and the Messianic connection, rabbinic, is that how you say it? Rabbinic Judaism later treats the red heifer as extremely rare and significant. According to tradition, only 9 fully red heifers were ever prepared for Moses' time through the Second Temple period. The medieval scholar Maimonides wrote that the 10th red heifer would be prepared by the Messiah. The idea that 2 beliefs in some religious Zionists and temple moving circles today. You cannot restore full biblical temple worship on the Temple Mount without the ashes of a valid red heifer to purify the priests and the site. Now, this is a site, I believe, if I remember right, on the Temple Mount that is owned by the Palestinians. It is not in Israel proper. There is a rancher, a Zionist Christian nationalist rancher in Texas who's been breeding red heifers, and recently he sent 5 red heifers along with members of Congress to Israel. No clue if they did the sacrifice or not. Word on the street is none of them were perfect. But the plan is that eventually they will have this red heifer, they will sacrifice it, they will burn it, and they will mix it into the ashes and the ground on the Temple Mount, and that will bring back Jesus. Christians believe, citing Daniel 9:27, Matthew 24:15, Thessalonians, Jesus, 2:4, and Revelation 11:1 through 2. That there will be a Jewish temple in Jerusalem during the end times. That's why it was so important for many Christian nationalists to move the embassy to Jerusalem and call Jerusalem the capital. A functioning temple under Torah law would require purification with the ashes of that red heifer. That's from Numbers 19. Therefore, the discovery, breeding, or export of a perfectly red heifer to Israel is seen as a sign that the third temple is close, which in turn is tied to events like the rise of the Antichrist, the tribulation, and Christ's return. Pair that with the fact that Pete Hegseth is openly telling our troops that this is a religious war, and that seems to be our tie to Israel. I don't know that we have an end in sight here. This is fucking crazy. Way off on pronunciation. What did I mispronunciate? I don't think I mispronunciated. Like the Bible books? I think wrong. I don't think so. I got those right. Modern day Christians always say those books wrong, but maybe some of those others. Some of the Jewish terminology I probably fucked up. You can say mispronunciate, can't you? Can't you say mispronunciate? Is that not a word? God damn, we got the... is that not a word? Got the language police out here. You say mispronunciate? Okay, you have to say mispronunciation. Okay, my bad. Close enough. Mispronunciation. You know, mispronunciation is a word. It's mispronounced is also a word. There's no way. Yeah. Sorry. Jesus. I'm sorry. No, I thought it was a real word. No, that was a real word. My bad. Give me a break. I learned English in Utah. We don't get any of our any of our words correctly. The fact that I was even close on that actually should be a win. That's 10 out of 10. I would get credit for that at a Utah school. They'd be like, that's actually so close. All right, back to this.
Oversaw Trump's $10 billion lawsuit against the IRS, now moving to reopen the case to investigate allegations of fraud. In a striking turnaround, Judge Kathleen Williams ordering Trump to respond to grievous allegations that his settlement was premised on deception. Trump had dropped the suit in exchange for the creation of that so-called anti-weaponization fund, $1.8 billion in taxpayer money to compensate Trump allies who claimed they were...
No, I'm not saying that that's the standard, good enough for Utah, elite for Utah. What I just said is elite for Utah. And yeah, that is my standard.
Unfairly treated by the Biden Justice Department. Even riders who attacked police officers on January 6 could see payouts.
We've got a slush fund for people who could have assaulted police officers and get compensated for it.
The judge giving Trump until June 12th to respond. This as another judge in Virginia rules to temporarily block payments from that fund. And tonight, Trump blasting another legal ruling, a judge ordering him to remove his name from the Kennedy Center within 2 weeks.
So before we took over just a year ago.
I love that he complains about it. My favorite part about this is that it makes him upset. I don't know why he thinks he can just like rename things. Like Congress makes something, he renames it. By the way, it's still the Department of Defense. It's also not the Department of War. I don't know why Trump I do know why Trump thinks he can do this, because he's a fucking idiot. I don't know why everybody else is just like, let's let the fucking idiot be in charge. I don't know. They all must know this, that it's all going to be overturned. But watching Mike Johnson and Susie Wiles sit by Trump as he complains about this is just more evidence of the cuckery.
The legendary, this wonderful place was on the verge of...
Also still Gulf of Mexico. Thank you.
On the verge of collapse.
Trump claiming without evidence it was politically motivated, posting the judge would rather see it die than have...
Is it not politically motivated to just rename something? Is that not politically motivated? How come things are only politically motivated when it's somebody undoing politically motivated actions by Trump? How come nothing he does is ever politically motivated?
President Trump transform it into something that everyone could be proud of.
Hey, did you want America to fail? Is this America failing? Since we're not going to rename the Kennedy Center after Trump, is that America failing? Or are you just broadly saying that anybody who doesn't like Trump wants America to fail?
And the president facing yet another setback in the performing arts. The majority of musicians slated for the Trump-backed event celebrating America's 250th now pulling out. The president now saying he'll hold a rally on Wednesday on the National Mall to replace the planned concerts.
Isn't it illegal to rename it? I just don't think I don't think they have the right. I don't know if it's illegal. I don't think it's a crime. You can probably say whatever the fuck you want, but Congress made it, so Congress is in charge of the name.
Selena Wang joining us now from the White House. And Selena, you're also getting new details on President Trump's health and a recent visit to Walter Reed Medical Center.
That's right, Whit, and this was President Trump's third...
Is America failing when high school graduates can't read? Yeah, our president can barely read. I think we're failing a little bit.
Third visit to Walter Reed in just 13 months. The report says that the president is in excellent health, but it also recommends he exercise more and lose weight. All of this coming amid...
Also had his fourth exam that you only take when people think you have dementia. He's taken it 4 times now. I don't know if great health is correct.
Consistent questions about the president's health. And as for that bruising, Whit, that is often seen on the president's hands, well, the doctor attributes that to handshaking and aspirin use.
There's no fucking way. There's just no fucking way. The backside of your hand is bruised from handshaking. How are you shaking hands? If shaking hands is leaving a bruise like that, his whole body would be bruised.
Okay, Selena, thanks so much.
My health is so great. We'll see you back tomorrow. Is that a threat? What the fuck is that? I'm in pretty good health. All right, let's talk about Pam Bondi. We got to this a little bit, but Ro Khanna went on CNN as somebody who was involved in that and gave us more details on the deposition with Pam Bondi. It's about 8 minutes long, but I want to watch that here before we get to the meat of today's show. Just a reminder, guys, we are crowdfunded. Anything you can do to help us knock out the gift goal before the end of the show would be great. The end of the show is going to be far more detailed, and it will be more interaction with you guys as you help me sort through what the fuck some of these people are saying. But if you want to knock out the gift goal before then, that would be greatly appreciated. Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, Super Chat, and TikTok gifts are the way to go.
What did you ask her? What did she say?
Well, first of all, on a human level, I wished her well in her recovery.
13 wounded soldiers were down the hall at the hospital, and he couldn't find the time to go see them. I did not know that.
From cancer. What we wanted here was just answers to help the survivors. And what she told us is that Todd Blanche was really managing the whole thing. So we need to ask Todd Blanche questions.
Why is Todd Blanche managing the whole thing, do you think? How come she's only saying that now that Todd Blanche is in charge and she's no longer in charge? I think maybe she didn't want to admit it at the time. Maybe she knew she was the patsy. Maybe she's now just realizing that she was the patsy. Maybe they were just always siding with Todd Blanche and overruling her. But she is very quick to shift the blame to Todd Blanche. And I'd like to point out, again, it is fucking insane that the acting attorney general is Trump's personal attorney, and that he is doing things on behalf of Donald Trump that a personal attorney would do, and we cannot get MAGA to care about that. It's absolutely crazy. Just played a clip like Trump's lawsuit against the IRS has to be reopened because it was probably going to be ruled ineligible for any sort of settlement because he controls the IRS. It was also vindictive. It was also nonsense. $10 billion. I think the statute of limitations on that particular crime is already gone. It happened during the Trump administration. The Biden administration prosecuted the person who leaked Trump's tax returns, and that person, I believe, I don't know what the sentencing was. I don't remember exactly what the sentence was, but like, I don't know. I don't even know what we're suing for at this point. I think the total amount was it $10,000 that he could get? Was it $1,000 or $10,000? This is nonsense. It never like this lawsuit was never going anywhere. The judge would never have allowed it. So they just settle for, they say $1.8 billion, but it's not even that. There's no limit on the amount of money. $10 from Axe says, donation for Jen's prayers. Hope everyone had a great, safe weekend. Thank you.
Also told us, surprisingly, that the FBI it scrubbed a lot of the documents or held a lot of the documents before they got to the Justice Department. That means that we need to ask Kash Patel, why were those documents redacted or what documents were missing? And then finally, when pressed on...
We don't know that the judge was going to throw out the case. Yes, we do. The judge basically said that there was no grounds for it. Past the statute of limitations. We do know that. I mean, unless the judge was entirely corrupt, but according to the law.
Whether some of the individuals should be prosecuted, whether they should be investigated, she deferred to Jay Clayton, who's the U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York. And so we need to ask him, what is going to happen to the people who raped or abused or trafficked the victims?
Did she have anything to say about what kinds of documents, what sort of information the FBI withheld from DOJ?
She did not. But what was very surprising is she said that some of the documents were withheld by the FBI.
Do you think one of these people should have to answer questions at some point? Do we have MAGA here still? Are you guys, I just want to know, like, we'll leave Trump out of this. Are you comfortable with Pam Bondi just not giving any details? Are you comfortable with Todd Blanche stepping in and saying Pam Bondi doesn't need to answer any of these questions? Are you guys honestly, forget like, no both sides shit, don't both sides this shit. If you both sides anything on this answer, you get a 5-minute mute. I just want to know, honestly, are you comfortable with this? Are you comfortable with them never answering questions about the Epstein files?
You know, Casey, because you've been covering this for a long time, in March of 2025, the FBI first scrubbed those documents. And the law that Thomas Massie and I passed, the Epstein Transparency Act, required all of the documents to be released, particularly the survivors' statements to the FBI in 302 forms where they name names. It turns out that when the Justice Department got those documents from the FBI, a lot of had already been redacted or missing. And so some of the answers that we need are with the FBI director.
So does it stand to reason, or is it your understanding then that the FBI withheld interviews with survivors where they talked about the people who abused them and named their names? That's part of what the FBI withheld?
They either withheld them. There's some documents.
Tell Maricopa and Fulton come interview under Lucasen now. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they're definitely going to find stuff about Fulton County and Maricopa. Those elections haven't been audited a million times. They're for sure going to find something
that were missing, or they redacted them so that by the time the Justice Department got them, they were already all redacted. Now, the Justice Department did additional redactions, and they showed members of Congress unredacted versions of what the Justice Department had redacted. But even members of Congress were seeing documents fully blanked out, which the FBI had done. Why does this matter? Because the survivors named the names in the 302 documents that the FBI had already redacted.
And did she have...
They're just openly breaking the law, right? Congress writes a law, says you have to show us these documents. They say no. What do we do? What do we do in this situation? Like, what do you do when the Constitution no longer applies? How do we proceed from here? MAGA, what's your plan here? Just full on fascism? I don't think that there's any of you who, if Trump tomorrow was like, you know what, fuck this, democracy's done, no more elections, come and get me, I've got the military. I think you would all support that. It's becoming abundantly clear that all the times we called you fascists and you're like, we're not, you were lying. Probably to yourselves, but also to us. It's fucking disgusting. Hoodie, shut the fuck up. You're so... Hoodie, Congress gets to see it. I didn't say us. Why are they hiding it from Congress? Congress gets to look at these documents. They're telling Congress no. Congress wrote the law that said they're allowed to see it. No. Hoodie, you're like, I don't even know why you're here. If we're going to be honest, I'm going to take a little detour here. I don't even know why the fuck you're still around and opening your mouth. I don't get it at all. Like, you've been proven wrong about literally every single thing. And now you're just going down with the ship. And I think we know why. I think your little CSAM thing was kind of a glimpse into who you are. And you see this a lot. That guy what's that guy that's running, Victor, whatever, that's running for governor in Colorado. He's like the GOP front runner. He's clearly just like a serial abuser, serial bad guy. You latch onto people like Trump and you latch onto these things to borrow their morality. And now their morality doesn't exist. Like the stuff they were talking about like saving kids and taking down these global elite rings of pedophiles. They're not doing it. And you're still going along with it. Because I think you just are trying to adopt those morals. You're trying to throw off the scent. And unfortunately for you, Hoodie, I don't think that there's anybody left to defend you. I don't think there's anybody left that doesn't think you're a sick person. Trying to be careful not to get banned from TikTok today for harassment and bullying. Mods, I don't care if Hoodie's here or not. You can get rid of Hoodie. I just wanted to say on the record, we've had a lot of conversations, dude. I think that you've been exposed as a pretty dark and disgusting person.
Any explanation for why Blanche was so involved, why he had so much control, especially considering it was she who initially held those public events where she spoke with people who were invested in it, and she went and famously said that she had the client list on her desk?
She just said that this is the responsibility she gave Todd Blanche. Look, she wanted to say this is Todd Blanche, this is Kash Patel, this is Jay Clayton. Which means that they need to come before the committee and answer questions. I have much less of a interest in making this about the people in the Trump administration. My concern is, why are the people who raped, abused, and sex trafficked these survivors still out there facing no consequences? I get texts, Casey, almost every day from a survivor saying the names are in the files. Why are they not being investigated? Why are they not being prosecuted? And I feel a personal responsibility to the survivors. And so this is not gotcha. I wasn't out there to try to get Pam Bondi.
Where was the Epstein talk on Comey's watch? You mean Trump's watch? Comey was Trump's FBI director, right?
Understand what is it going to take to get investigations and prosecutions to move forward.
So speaking of
Trump said he was going to take down Hillary Clinton. They talked about Epstein during Trump's first administration. He said he was going to do it. All that happened is Trump's administration covered up Epstein's death. They hid the cameras. They lied about the cameras being available there. They said there was no camera footage. Turned out that was a lie. They said the 3 minutes was missing. It could never be recovered. That was a lie. Bill Barr went in there and with the help of the DOJ, they went and they replaced the hard drive, meaning that any evidence we could have had was erased indefinitely. What are you talking about? All this stuff happened under Trump. Alex Acosta is just working for the Trump administration. We'll actually get back to this a little bit later. This is connected more deeply than I want to go into right now, but we'll connect all this back later.
Names. You have worked extensively with Republican Congressman Thomas Massie on this issue, and he, of course, lost his primary after the president targeted him in his Republican.
And that not having a primary is being a fascist is an awfully big stretch. The Democrats had a primary, dipshit. You want to see? Look. I'll show them to you. See? Here's the primary. Joe Biden won 86.8%. Marianne Williamson won 5.2%. Dean Phillips won 4.4%. That's in Utah. Let's go here into Arizona. 89% for Joe Biden. Oops. Let me go back there. You can look through this map. You can look at the primary. These are the primaries. What do you think these are? Coping with data. You didn't have primaries. Here's the primary. Cope. Nice, Ramboni. Bro, you are one of the dumbest people still around here. I appreciate you coming back every single day. How's this cope? These are the primaries. What do you mean they didn't have a primary? Who are all these? There's 3.2 million people, 3.2 million votes there in California. That 5% for Marianne Williamson is thanks to Jay. She does not like me. Yeah, she came on to TikTok during the primaries. I talked to her. It didn't go super well. How well did Kamala Harris do in those primaries? Good. She was the VP, so she was here with Joe Biden. She did very well. And then the primaries were over when Joe Biden steps down. So what should you do when the primaries are over? What's the process when primaries are over, but the president steps down? Well, you got to pick somebody to run, right? So what do? The way primaries work is if we look at California here, this over here says DEL. That stands for delegates. So these 424 delegates are actual people. These are 424 people, and they are representatives from all of the precincts all throughout California. And they were voted for by Democrats in these primaries. You may not know this, but when I was a delegate, I was voted to be a delegate in my precinct. Everybody gets together. There's people that put their name in the hat to be a delegate, and then the people vote on who is the delegate. And I was voted to be a delegate. So that's a human being. So when Joe Biden then drops out, these delegates are unbound. They are free to put their support behind anyone, anybody at all. Could have been Marianne Williamson, could have been Dean Phillips, could have been Kamala Harris. Somebody else at that point could have stepped in. You could have had any other Democrat step up and be like, I would like to put my name in the hat. But nobody did. So the delegates had a choice between Kamala Harris, Marianne Williamson, and Dean Phillips. And they chose Kamala Harris because that's their job. There was absolutely a primary. If you're too dumb to know that, then that makes sense that you would vote for Donald Trump. It's also not fascism. It's democracy. A system of democracy, like a representative democracy. Some might call this a representative republic. And the representatives of the people of each state who were delegates chose Harris. See how that works? Stop saying dumb things. Let's get back to covering up the Epstein files.
Primary. Massey has since said that he plans to name names before he leaves office. Do you
Damien
have
said
any idea?
going on vacation, a little extra since I will miss the week. Thank you, Damien. Over on Cash App, I didn't see any. Make sure PayPal's good. And get these. Sorry. Do I want to ban hoodie? Yeah, I don't care. Mods can decide if they want to ban. Oh, Casey already did. Okay, cool.
What the plans are for that? Do you plan to participate? Do you know how he might do that?
I do not know.
So the Democrats should have postponed the election to redo the primary. Would that have been okay with MAGA? They couldn't even do it. Yeah, they had no choice. Choosing Harris, they could have chosen anybody, but the Democrats did everything lawfully. It's a silly thing that Republicans say. By the way, the same Republicans who bitch about that don't say a fucking word about Donald Trump not showing up for a single debate. Donald Trump didn't participate in the Republican primaries, and he won. How'd that work? How is it that Trump can win without going to any of the debates, without facing his opposition at all? Let's not talk about fascism. You guys all didn't even hear him challenged. Didn't even see him on a debate stage. Just voted for him anyways.
I haven't talked to him about this matter since he lost. The reality is that the survivors have told us through lawyers some of the names. My view is it'd be much better to get the documents.
Should we play this game? Patrick, name something that the Democrats did that was against the law. You said Democrats never do anything lawfully. Are you joking? Name one thing. I bet whatever he says is not true.
Rather than relying on survivors to do that. But I will talk to Thomas. What I can tell you about Thomas is he's got 7 months still in Congress, and he's as
Trump was at every debate. Jesus, do we really have to do this? Let's see. I'm just going to go to the 2024 RNC debates. Let's see.
Our country is in decline. This decline is not in.
Let's see if we can get a shot of the stage here. All right. Where's Trump? I see Chris Christie. I think that's Mike Pence. I think it's DeSantis, Vivek, Nikki Haley. There's Doug Burgum over there. Who's this on the right? I don't know who this is on the far left here. Who's this? Who's this? Where's Trump? I thought he went to all the debates. This was the first GOP primary debate. Is that Byron? It's Byron Donalds? I didn't remember. That's not Byron. Is it Scott? I don't think it's Byron Donalds. I don't think he ran. Is it Tim Scott? It might be Tim Scott. I'm sorry, the faces are so blurry. It's hard to get any of these people's faces. I wanted to say that was John Kasich, but I'm sure it wasn't John Kasich. Does anybody know who this is on the edge? Yeah, he wasn't there, was he? All right, back to them covering this up. Sorry, I keep getting distracted.
It's out rather than relying on survivors to do that. But I will talk to Thomas. What I can tell you about Thomas is he's got 7 months still in Congress, and he's as committed to this issue as I am. He's had survivors break down in tears in his office, and this is personal for him, and we're going to do everything we can to expose the people who did wrong.
Outside of the room, a group of women who survived abuse by Jeffrey Epstein called on Bondi to provide the public with more information, including why the Justice Department says there's no need for any further investigation of Epstein or his alleged accomplices.
The Department of Justice is simultaneously telling the American people that there are no additional investigative leads worth pursuing. We can see with our own eyes when we look at the Epstein files that this is...
Isn't it weird how if you close your eyes, Liz Stein sounds exactly like Melanie Stansbury? Anybody else make that connection?
Not true. These files contain leads, names, connections...
thank you, Everyday Insanity, for the gifted subs. I appreciate that.
Friendships, patterns, witnesses, travel records, financial relationships, and institutional failures. In any other sex trafficking case of this magnitude, those leads would be aggressively pursued. But in this case, they have not been. And as citizens of this country, we should all be asking why.
Casey, as you know, this was a much anticipated appearance of Pam Bondi because she has faced a torrent of criticism for her handling of all things Epstein.
We'll skip through there. I just want to get Rokan on there. So I don't know. It feels a little bit futile at times that we keep covering this. It's every day. Every day, it's just this administration covering for the worst people on earth and just nothing. Dave Rubin went on to Jubilee. I don't show Jubilee a lot. I've gone on there. I'll probably go again. I may contact. I get offered stuff through Jubilee regularly, but we're pretty busy with the summer. The way that it is, with news being slow, we may wind up doing another Jubilee episode. I don't like doing Surround. I don't think I would do Surrounded, but I would do I forget what the other one I was called was. I would do that one again. I don't want to do Surrounded, but this is Dave Rubin. If any of you don't know who Dave Rubin is a very handsome idiot. He used to work. Who did he work for? It was some. He was at the Young Turks, and then he had this crisis of conscience, and he left the Young Turks and became a conservative. He calls himself a classic liberal, which is nonsense. He doesn't know what any of these terms mean. He's the epitome of a grifter. And I say that like legitimately. I think grifter gets overused, but Dave Rubin does almost no homework. Dave Rubin speaks entirely in platitudes, generalities. He does like the Patrick Bet-David thing, where he can't directly answer any questions, so he just turns everything into a hypothetical. He went on Jubilee, and he ran into some of our friends. He ran into Parker, who was great. I saw... Who else I see? My friend Mason was on there, who I'd done the Jubilee episode with before. That's One-Handed Politics. I think it's called like One Hand Politics or something like that is his username. Who else was on there that we knew? I saw Z was on there. God damn, she sucks. Who else was on there that we knew? Naima, yeah. Oh, yeah, Santana was on there. Santana, I thought Santana got cut off early. Santana was I don't know. I think he got derailed a little bit. Santana was about to nail Rubin down. He got cut off, but he got derailed. Rubin's good at this. He just derails conversations. But I wanted to show a couple clips here. First, this one. Dave Rubin has the audacity to think that Donald Trump is like draining the swamp.
The war is over. The war's over.
No, it's
what do you mean?
Very much.
There's
no.
a ceasefire. There's not one Israeli in Gaza. The hostages are home.
Trump made.
What a fucking insane thing to say. She'll get to it. But do you know how poorly informed you have to be? And Dave Rubin has millions of subscribers. He's one of the people that took the Russian money. You know how poorly informed you have to be like, oh, the war's over. It's done. Nobody says that. Literally nobody says that. Except for like Stephen Miller. Dave Rubin is getting his talking points directly from the administration because he's lazy.
Several campaign promises to his voters that he hasn't come through on, and yet we continue to hear you guys bootlick him all the time. And it's very frustrating to me that you're not
the topic is the modern
holding...
left cares more about ideology.
Yeah, and I disagree with the claim.
Yeah.
I think that the modern right cares more about ideology. I mean,
Let's
look at some of the things that Trump ran on, right?
Yeah.
He ran on an America First campaign, and then he bombs Venezuela. Then he doesn't end the war in Israel, even though he promised he was going to do that.
What do you
starts
mean?
a
The war is
conflict.
over. The war's over.
No, it's
what do you mean?
very much.
Carol said Minnesota's GOP opened their convention on Saturday with a moment of silence for convicted murderer Derek Chauvin. These people are not redeemable. I saw that. Fucking sick. William said if they put Trump's name on anything, it should be Walter Reed Hospital.
The war's over.
No, it's
what do you mean?
Very much.
There's a ceasefire. There's not one Israeli in Gaza. The hostages are home. There's a reconstruction
that is absolutely not true. That is fundamentally false.
Wait, you're saying there are hostages in Gaza right now, and the war is continuing?
The conflict has.
The war is continuing. I don't know the answer about hostages in Gaza right now. They are still being bombed. I know. I'm not as up to date. I know last week they bombed Gaza. Last week. This was filmed before that. They've never stopped killing people in Gaza. That's still it's still happening. But that's like the privilege of being a conservative content creator. You just whatever Trump says, you just go with it, and then you don't learn anything new.
Continued, yes, there have continued to be bombs. And moving
they're
on.
bombing Gaza right now. That's what you're telling me?
Yes.
Yeah, that's not true.
I mean, I know you get your news from Grok, but like this is a fact that is continuing to happen.
No, he has emailed his news every morning from the administration. He gets a briefing from the administration every day that says this is what you will talk about and defend, and he does it.
So he promises to be America first, right? He
Sounds like Ferris Bueller.
He doesn't end the war in Israel. He starts a war in Iran while simultaneously defunding the VA, right? So he's sending people to go fight an unnecessary war while defunding the organization and the institution that helps those people. That's not America first at all. He said he was going to be tough on crime, especially immigrants, but he pardons the president of Honduras, who was literally in jail for smuggling 400 tons of cocaine.
Now, let me tell you why she's so good. Like, she dominated this. One, I do think Dave Rubin is more likely to be polite to women, but two, this is like Dave Rubin is searching for something. The one thing that I think you have to do with all of these conservatives, if you have to frame things a different way. I think Parker did a really good job with this too. You have to frame things in a way that they haven't heard before. And the way this is being framed, he doesn't have like an immediate recall on the talking point that he's supposed to bring up. And so he's just searching, but she's just hammering it home over and over and over. He has nothing. His response so far is, you're telling me that they're still bombing Gaza? Like, bro, you work in media. You get paid a lot of money to work in media. You should know that. It's weird for him to just be like, oh, your facts are wrong.
Into the U.S., he promised he was going to drain the swamp, and then he puts Kash Patel in, who's drunk at work. Then he puts Pam Bondi in, who's a fucking numpty, right? She ain't doing shit. Then he puts
Numpty's beautiful.
Christy Noem and her big booby boyfriend in, right? He didn't drain the swamp at all. He dumped raw sewage in the swamp. Like, he hasn't come through on any of his promises, and you continue to defend him. You are not accepting the reality that Trump failed his voters.
If Donald Trump did nothing else other than close the borders, he has already done more than enough.
That's what he came up with. Well, all these guys, this is all there. This is literally all of MAGA left. Well, but he closed the borders. My daughter's mom just came home from Mexico yesterday. The border's not closed. It's not closed. I don't know who needs to hear this, but you can go in and out of the border. You don't even have to be a citizen to go in and out of the border. It's not closed. You just go down there. Anybody live in a border state that goes to the border? It's not closed. Nobody wants to come here anymore. That's what's going on. People don't want to come to America because if you don't look like a MAGA supporter, you're going to be harassed. Nobody wants to be here. That's what he did. He made people afraid of America. The border's not closed, though. It wasn't open. It's also not closed.
For the country.
That's you. Whoa. You think in 4 years?
Sorry, it wasn't wide open. It was open. It wasn't wide open where you could just come across. They haven't changed a single rule at the border. It's all the same. Just nobody wants to come here.
A president's only responsibility is to close the borders. He's supposed to be running the free world. He's supposed to be running the entire country. That's all you care about is the border?
If you have a slow, soft invasion.
I love this. Says a liberal. My brother. I bet we could find video of the border right now. Is there live video stream border crossing? What do you think happens? Do you legitimately think that like nobody's coming into this country? Where's this? That's all the northern border. Okay, Stanton Bridge. That's not going to load. This is the Juarez border. Let's see if I can find one here. Yeah. This is the border. Look closed to you? Do you guys, I didn't know that you guys honestly thought the border was like closed. It's open at Nogales. Yeah, that's where my daughter's mom came through yesterday. She came through Nogales. She was down at Rocky Point. Or what is it? Puerto Penasco, is that what they say? Is that what it is? What it's actually called? I can't remember. Yeah. It's open. It's been open. It's not closed. This guy gets paid millions of dollars to do this.
Of your country happening, then at the very least you can close the borders and start kicking out the people who are not supposed to be here.
Okay, but you just
right?
said
So
if
Donald,
the only thing that Trump
Sorry, I got to roll the Puerto Penasco.
is close the borders, that would be an effective presidency to you?
In and of itself, closing the border is by far the most important thing that had to happen.
Absolutely. So you don't care
we
that
had an invasion.
But it didn't happen. It's not closed. None of this happened. It was so important that I don't care about all these other things that I can't address. Yeah, it didn't happen, though. Amy said, I went to Canada and they searched my car. Coming back, they flagged me through. I could have smuggled anything I wanted. Oh. Canadians are more worried about the Americans. That makes sense. Well, you're probably white, right, Amy?
Into this country. 16 to 20 million people, on top of the fact that we probably had...
Also, that number's made up. 16 to 20 million is a completely made up number. There is no data for that number. For during the Biden administration, 16 to 20 million people being let into this country. That's the total amount of people here undocumented. Total. That's a made up number. This guy is so paid. Yeah, I agree with you. This guy right here, Dave Rubin, is paid. Literally has been caught being paid by Republican operatives. He's completely funded by Koch brothers subsidiaries. And then he took Russian money as well. Yes, completely paid.
At least 12 million illegals here in the first
Diva,
place.
so you don't care that he just cut $1 trillion from Medicaid. You don't care that he defunded the EPA. You don't care that he defunded the VA.
I don't
you
care
don't
that
care
he
that
funded
he
the EPA, but that's besides the point.
None of those things. You don't care. It's just as long as he does immigration, you're happy.
No,
that's delusional.
Good job. No answers from this is your best and brightest. Let's go here. This is our guy. One Hand Politics is his name. You'll just notice Mason, who
I'm a big fan. I've been watching you.
I would say that this audience, I don't know if you guys know Mason very well. We spent a few hours filming. He does a good job. He's done a ton of these Jubilee episodes. He knows his shit. He's brilliant. He's also your kind of people. Like, he's Twitch chat. He has like a vulgar sense of humor. He's funny. He has he has one hand that looks very different and much smaller than the other one. That's why he goes One Hand Politics, but does an incredible job with Dave Rubin right here. And some of these are like super inside jokes. I messaged him this morning. I don't know if he got back to me yet. I haven't checked, but some of these were like really, really good digs. Dave Rubin is kind of like PBD, where he's all surface level. He loves going on Bill Maher, and they talk about ideas. I love talking about ideas. And what they mean by I love talking about ideas is I don't talk about anything specific because I don't have any specifics. So Mason first is going to bring that up. He did actually get back to me. He said thank you.
I'm a big fan. I've been watching you since like all the way back in the Sam Harris era.
Oh yeah.
And then I remember you
softening me up. Okay.
No, you brought on like Stephen Molyneux, like the white nationalist, and I was like, this guy just loves ideas. He just loves all different types of ideas. I love that. But yeah,
Stephen Molyneux is like just like a unabashed, like unapologetic white nationalist, and they just bring him on and platform him like it's no big deal. Dave also, I should probably preface this because it's going to come up here. Dave Rubin is gay. Dave Rubin is married to a man. Dave Rubin adopted 2 children at the same time. So this is a former liberal who left the Young Turks seemingly over taxes. He didn't want to be taxed as much, and as a gay man, is friends with a lot of bigoted people. And I feel like there might be a self-report in here in a second, but just so you know, when Mason brings up his lifestyle, that's why, because this is a gay man. He's not married to Peter Thiel, no.
just wanted to talk right now specifically about the difference between progressive values and the MAGA coalition.
Sure.
It seems to me that all of the ills that are attributed to wokeism are typically things...
Oh, sorry. Raina said, I cross the border every day for the past 15 years. Yeah, it's never been closed.
...that people find annoying. So people being overly, policey about their pronoun usage or talking about specific groups that might seem extremely marginalized. That's what I typically hear from the right. I don't hear like a degradation of like society unless it's the far theocratic right.
So it's funny, I get called a conservative all the time. I actually happen to be a liberal in the truest sense of liberal.
You should join the circle.
And progressives are not liberal as a general rule of thought. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I just feel...
Do you remember when we were showing the Sam Cedar debate with Biggest Loser lady, whatever her name is, and she said, I'm a classical liberal. She got that from Dave Rubin. And Dave Rubin's not a classical liberal. He wrote a book that he says is like one of the most popular classical liberal books. No, it was bought by Republicans. It's just so that they can be like, I'm actually a classical liberal.
I feel like that type of like annoyance that wokeism presents to the world is a lot less dangerous than like, I don't know, the coalition that you're a part of that like condemns people for having children when they're in gay marriages, or says things like, people that are of particular sexual orientations don't deserve the same equal rights. Well, would you say that that's something that's dangerous?
A coalition is going to have all sorts of people in it. So
it's like
MAGA, if we were talking
ideological diversity.
Yeah, true. But generally speaking, the coalition is not does not include people who you are trying to strip rights from. Right? If you were going to have, let's say, an anti-Semitic coalition, you might have white nationalists. You might have some sort of like somebody who is Muslim who thinks that all Jews should be annihilated. You may have I guess who else hates Jews outside of those people? I don't know. Just conspiracy theorists who think that Jews run the world. You could have a coalition, but what you're probably not going to have in that coalition is a bunch of Jewish people who are like, yeah, we definitely just shouldn't have rights. It's interesting. Like, what do you mean we have a coalition? If your coalition is we should strip rights and not allow you, Dave Rubin, to have children, why are you part of that coalition? Seems like you should find a different coalition.
Yeah, if we were talking about what MAGA is, what I like about MAGA actually is that it's not a specific set of you have to believe this exact set, right? You have to believe these exact
some people in MAGA can
things.
believe like gay couples can have kids, and others can believe like that's degeneracy and those people need to be jailed.
Just see what they said about that.
Sorry, Mason clipped these in, just so we're clear.
Pedophile couple that are trafficking kids. What's her name again?
Are you talking about Dave Rubin?
Oh, Dave Rubin. That's it. Yeah, Dave Rubin. Yeah. Coming soon, baby one. Where did they steal this kid from? That's two men.
Well,
two men are gay.
Yeah,
they can't have kids.
It's got to pop out first, and then that's when they snatch them.
Oh, that's when they steal it.
Yeah, that's when they steal it. But that's like plotting a crime right there. So somebody should probably do something about that.
Well,
those are like the different.
Just part of his coalition, right? You can have everybody in the coalition. I just happen to be part of a coalition who doesn't think I should exist and that I should not have rights, but they pay me really well, so I'm going to continue to be part of this coalition.
Actually, the tough answer to that is yes. You want to talk about the trans issue sort of broadly, I
want to talk about the MAGA coalition
what I can tell you,
individual liberty, yet wants to police the way that people express
themselves. But what are they doing?
That also wants to police people's bodies, that want to go after people specifically because of their ethnicity.
Right.
None of that should be
so
tolerated.
Donald Trump is in the middle of his second term. Gay marriage is here. It's passed. It's a just
then
cause.
Why are
I believe in individual rights.
Wait, you're friends with Michael Knowles, right?
Oh my, are you saying that adoption should not be allowed? I'm adopted. Is that now your talking point? Because I think what's happening right now is that you don't want to show that you're homophobic. So you're saying that those children will never know their mother. It's their mother. By the way, I think theirs was. I think they used a surrogate. I think they used It's not adoption. What is it? Well, what's the difference? The people who are adopted never know their mother. I believe it's a surrogate, though. So the mother won't be around. Maybe she will be around. Maybe she's in their life. I don't know. I have no idea. But lots of people never know their mothers. A lot of times, you guys advocate for abortion policies where the mother will die and the child will live. Well, that child won't meet their mother either. Is that okay? Yeah, I think you're just doing homophobia and you're hiding it behind a different argument, which is kind of what Mason's pointing out here. Is that you guys pretend that you have these principles, but these principles really only apply to go after marginalized people.
Right?
Yeah.
So what's that coalition again called? I think it's like Less Equal. That's trying to actually get rid of Obergefell and overturn gay marriage rights. Does that not concern you?
Well, first off, I've never heard of that specific organization, but Michael is part of. I just don't know what you're talking about. But what
you
I
can
would
look it up right
but
now.
What I would
it's
say
called
is
Less Than.
No,
and it's Lila Rose, Michael Knowles.
Right. Well, first off, Michael and I are friends, but there is a cap on our friendship. There actually
How are you
is.
friends with someone who doesn't want you to be in love, my man?
He doesn't want me to be in love. He's had dinner at my house with his wife. My husband cooked for him.
That's against God. So I want to have a word with him.
No. But think about what you're saying.
Dave,
Think about what he's saying.
But what I want to say
your name. Wait. Hold on, champ.
Isn't that a wild thing to say? I think there's a they're admitting something very honest. They're all lying. They're all actors. He doesn't give a fuck what Michael Knowles says publicly. He doesn't give a fuck what Michael Knowles raises money for. Michael Knowles likes him. They have dinner together. It's all a fucking grift. They're all different behind closed doors. None of them care. Michael Knowles is another one who is legitimately a failed actor. Dave Rubin, I believe, failed actor, maybe stand-up. Can't remember which one he did. All of these people have failed in Hollywood and became Republicans. And that's why like they can say such crazy things. And that's why Dave Rubin can get along with all of them, because none of this is real. It's all a fugazi.
Yeah. You know, in your world of how tolerant you are showing me you're actually showing a remarkable amount of intolerance, because although I don't know the group that you're talking about.
Which intolerance is he showing?
Michael Knowles, as a human being, has been to my house, and my husband has cooked him lamb, and we have enjoyed evenings together and shared personal moments and all of those things. Now, do we agree on absolutely everything? Of course, the answer to that is no. And
yeah, but what you disagree on is your ability to be a parent. They don't think you should be a parent because of where you put your dick. That seems pretty fucking crazy to me. That seems like a line in the sand. It's not like you disagree on tax policy. I want a flat tax and they want a progressive tax. I think we should pack the courts. I think we should not. You don't disagree on immigration policy. They disagree that you are fit to be a parent. There's no fucking way somebody that thinks I'm not allowed to be a parent should, like, there's no way that person's going to be in my life. I've lost people in my life. I got kicked off of, holy shit. I got kicked off of TikTok. Jesus Christ, fuck TikTok. That's crazy. Well, there goes the backup account. I'm not friends with people like that. I'll tell you, like, I had this couple that we used to, back when I was married, we used to go on vacation with them. And we had like a big falling out. And they're what they think is that it's politics. And I talked to one of them, and they were like, I just don't think politics should get in the way of like our friendship. I was like, it wasn't politics. It's what you were saying about people like me. Like you were saying, everybody who votes for, at that point, I think it was Joe Biden, is a pedophile. And it was just these nonstop attacks on my beliefs. I was like, I don't know what you want me to do with that. Like, yeah, you didn't tag me, but you're talking about me. So what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? They're like, well, these are just politics. We don't bring that into the friendship. It's like, well, I do, I guess. Like, I don't really want to be friends with somebody who talks about me like that. A lot of you know, like I have friends that are MAGA. I'm going to go probably tonight to have dinner with a couple that's from Canada, and they're MAGA, but we don't let our politics get in the way. We fucking fight about it. And their opinions on a lot of issues have changed. And my opinion on their opinions have changed too. But what they don't do is demonize me for having these opposite views. And I don't demonize them for the same reason, because they're capable of having a conversation. We're going to sit there for hours at a bar and never yell at each other, and we're going to talk about like real ideas. I don't think you have to demonize everybody for the way that they voted, but this one's crazy. Like, I love being part of a coalition who doesn't think I should have rights and they pay me well.
If Michael or anyone else was trying to lead some organization that was going to go against my civil rights, well, that is where obviously we would have our difference of opinion, of course.
Dave,
but I also respect people's religious beliefs. They're allowed to have their religious beliefs. Their religious beliefs are not allowed to legislate my life. This is all very separate from the trans thing, which obviously I sense is going to come up a few more times today.
I'll just say real quick, like, I'm not trying to come after you. I believe that you should have the full liberty to have the family of your choice. But what I will say is, I'm glad Michael treats you with respect individually when you guys are together. But when he goes in front of his platform and says that a video of two gay men having a child is the most disgusting thing that he's ever seen, which is a quote, you can look up the tweet. Michael said that that child is in one of the most dangerous situations he can think of, which is crazy to think of all the abusive parents that actually live in this society, regardless of sexual orientation. And you're going to look at a happy family and say, this is disgusting. That should feel like a violation.
Okay, so I didn't see that video.
So here it is. Michael Knowles posted on April 16th, 2026, that a clip of two gay men in Nashville with the baby they had via surrogacy was the most horrifying video I've ever seen in my life. If this is really about that kid, what should terrify you the most, the most terrifying video you should see in your life, just statistically, and I don't think you should think this is terrifying for the record, but if you're going to use that logic, you should probably be looking at a Christian, conservative, white dad holding their child. And as far as parents that abuse their children, the most likely person to abuse their child sexually is a Christian, conservative, white dad. And go ask Tim Tebow about that.
But if what you're asking me is do I agree with, if let's just say what you said is true, do I agree with Michael's point on that? Of course the answer is no.
But that is the MAGA coalition.
Yeah. All right. One other thing. I think it's this one. Make sure it's the right one. Yeah, this was the other part where Mason confronted Dave Rubin on taking money. And this is where Dave Rubin's exposed as a grifter.
Suck Donald Trump's dick without criticizing any bad thing that he does. There's a lot of
As a man after my own style right there. That's why I like Mason.
like oligarchic money too that like
That's quite
can
a claim.
incentivize people to change their worldview.
Wait. That's
like
quite, that's,
Russian money.
Hold on. That's
like
quite,
for people
hold
like
on.
Tim Pool
Hold
or
on.
like what was the Rubin report?
Yeah.
Did that also accept Russian money from Tenet?
All right. So first off, you want to talk about the Tenet thing? What do you want to talk about? Where do you want to go? I'll even give it to you.
Would be
I'll give it to
interesting.
you. Where do you want to go?
Yeah. Why did you take Russian money and pretend like you didn't know?
Does Mason watch? I don't know. We don't talk very often. Every once in a while, I'll see his clips on Jubilee and just reach out. But it's not like we're close friends. I really enjoy Mason though, and I think he's fucking brilliant. I think he's one of the smartest people in this room. He's one of the smartest people I've ever been around, to be honest. And he truly does care about this, and he's obviously well researched and well prepared for this. Mason's incredible.
So I was reached out to by Lauren Chen, who you might know as what's her name, Post Millennial Online, or
She's
something.
like the Canadian white nationalist that's Asian.
Roaming millennial, and I've known her for about 10 years. And she contacted me a couple of years ago and said that she had some backers that she was talking to, and she was starting a new network, and they were talking to all sorts of people. She mentioned Tim Pool. She mentioned a whole bunch of creators that you guys know, and I'm sure.
Let's say you didn't know that, and I'm not trying to say that
Yeah.
you were
Yeah,
able
wait,
to
hold
know
on,
that
hold
it
on.
was
Wait,
Russian
wait,
money.
yeah.
But what I do think is interesting is that this anti-woke movement that just says woke a lot and calls it an ideology, it is so easy to be ideologically aligned that Russian propagandists are like, yes, these are our people. This is how we're going to make
Yes,
America.
that is so fucking good by Mason. I haven't seen anybody corner any of these Tenet people in this way, because what the Tenet people, what Tim Pool did when he said he took all that money, and what Dave Rubin said, and it was I think it was Benny Johnson that took that money, maybe Michael Knowles too. What they all said is like, I didn't change my content. They didn't pay me to make new content. They liked my content. Yeah, that's the fucking point. That Russia saw a benefit in promoting your content, specifically when it came to being anti-Ukraine, which Dave Rubin is. So maybe they weren't influenced by the money that they took, but Russia saw them as useful and was like, hey, let's pay for this content. Now, what Tenet Media did in all of these contracts doesn't make sense from this perspective. Because what Tenet Media did is Dave Rubin, Tim Pool, they would create their own content, and Tenet Media would take that content and repost it on their own channel. So they weren't making exclusive content for Tenet Media. Why would Tenet Media pay for that? They can just use it. Tenet Media didn't have near the followers that Tim Pool or Dave Rubin or Michael Knowles or Benny Johnson had. So why would they give that money? That's the part that doesn't make sense. What we do know is that we know the dates they started getting that money, and we do know that then their pro-Russia or anti-Ukrainian rhetoric amplified after they got that money. I think they're full of shit. I think they know exactly what that money was for. They didn't think they'd ever get caught because Lauren Chen was like, they'll never figure this out. It looks like the company is headquartered in Canada, and then we funnel it through this other subsidiary. I think it was in Tennessee or Kentucky. It'll come to you. It'll look like normal revenue. I don't think they ever thought that there was going to be whistleblowers and investigative journalists that tracked all that money back to Russia. But they weren't anti-Ukraine until they got that money. So I think this is a lie that they tell. But even if that lie were true, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Why is it that Russia would pay you then to just say what you're already saying? What are they paying for?
Do you understand?
That's more of like the issue. It's not really your fault.
What show
it's
did
more
I-
so that
what-
like your
what-
whole ideology is like wokeness is
Let
bad.
What show did I do for Russia?
Have I heard a word of disrespect from Mr. Rubin? Yeah, many, many times. Today, no, not yet. I don't care about disrespect. I don't respect Dave Rubin. I don't think these people should respect Dave Rubin. He's an obvious fucking grifter. There's just like, why you got? He's being more respectful. That's exactly what you say when you're losing a debate. Well, I might be losing the debate, but look how respectful he's being. Who cares? I don't think debates are necessarily meant to be respectful.
What show did I do for
No,
Russia?
I'm not saying you did a show for Russia. I'm saying Russia saw you as a stooge who could easily say the talking points that benefited them.
I'm the one that got on the Zoom call with the backer to ask more questions about it and everything else. Yeah.
The backer was fake. I don't know what he's talking about here. He was a fake guy. His name was Edward Gregorian. He had a website that led to nowhere. They even faked, I think it was Dave Rubin specifically, where like Edward Gregorian was like sending emails and he's like, it's this time now. And he was obviously not in Canada. He was like obviously in Russia. I can't remember where he was. And then he kept like mixing up saying where he was. Like there was red flag after red flag after red flag for Dave Rubin. The backer he's talking about was fake. It wasn't a real person.
So, Dave, I'm not saying you were saying Russia's such a great country, everyone should love Vladimir Putin. And I get that your show might not even been political in nature.
I know, so you didn't, just to be clear, you didn't know the show, you didn't know the show or what I do.
They want to legitimize you more in the eyes of the viewers that they are trying to capture. That is the point of why Russia paid you specifically. They don't do it out of the kindness of their hearts. They didn't do it because they're like, Dave seems like a good guy. They did it because Dave's politics is advocating for cheerleading for Donald Trump policies, regardless of any criticism.
And great job there by Mason by pushing through that, because what Dave tries to do, and you'll see this through the whole thing, Dave tries to, anytime anybody asks him a tough question where he's stuck, he tries to pull away, reframe the question, say, actually, this is the important question, because here's what I have an answer for. You know who else does this really well? Is J.D. Vance. It's all J.D. Vance does. Every time J.D. Vance is asked a question, he goes, you know what? I actually don't like that question. Here's the question that I have rehearsed and I like. I'm going to now ask myself this question and give you an answer to the question that I just asked myself rather than answering your question. Dave is very media trained, and he's media trained in this way so he doesn't have to learn real stuff. He just has to know how to deflect and get back to a talking point, or not even a talking point. I would just say like an idea that he loves, which like he thinks like flat tax would work. He's always like, I'm for more freedom. I'm for you keeping more of your money. Never anything specific or any way to do it. It's just an ideology that he can retreat back to whenever he can. And that's when you see Dave Rubin go quiet and start stumbling and searching, he's looking for a way to retreat to an ideology.
Where is the case?
What do you mean, where's the case?
Where's the case? Where's the case right now? Why am I even able to talk about it? Why don't I have a lawyer sitting here?
You might not even have known about.
Because what happened is Dave Rubin and Tim Pool were able to call themselves victims. Their lawyers argued that they were victims of Tenet Media. That's why. And it's probably it's almost impossible to prove that they weren't. That's why they're not being sued. What they did is they were stupid. They just didn't know, which isn't I don't think a very useful argument for their credibility. But right wingers don't care about their credibility, so who cares?
The Russian money. I'm not trying to cast that blame on you. I'm just saying it's interesting that your show is so ideologically aligned with what Russia wants for the United States that they are going to give you money to continue to do it. That is the point.
What is it that I do for Russia?
You suck Donald Trump's dick without criticizing any bad thing that he does.
All right, yeah, we got to pause. Mason, you got to go.
Sorry.
I mean, kind of, right? Dave Rubin's also terrified of Sam Cedar, for the record. You should look that up when you have some time. Just type in Dave Rubin, Sam Cedar. Here's Parker. Parker did a great job cornering Rubin here with one of Rubin's own questions, and Parker reversed it on him.
What is one main metric that Donald Trump has made better off since he got in office? An example would be GDP, unemployment, inflation, etc.
Right now, first off, the big beautiful bill was just passed last year, and it's kicking in.
There you go. Disrespectful. Sorry, Brandy. Sorry that we're disrespectful about Donald Trump. We'll do better in the future.
Now, right? It's kicking in now. So we're going to now see results of that. Like even the tariffs. All right, so let's do tariffs. Are you for or against tariffs?
I'm against the universal tariff. So what's the main metric that he made better off?
What?
See how he does this? Goddamn, good job, Parker. The question is, what did he make better?
Are you for or against tariffs?
I'm against the universal tariff. So what's the main metric?
Why do you ask that question? He wants to get back to an ideology. He wants to get back to saying, Dave Rubin just wanted to retreat right there and say, are you for or against tariffs? I'm against these tariffs. Well, I'm for American protections. I'm America first. And what Donald Trump was trying to do with these tariffs is bring back American manufacturing. And isn't that a great way for the president to think? Don't you want the president to try and fight for you, the American people, and bring back American manufacturing jobs? That's why I voted for Donald Trump, because he's not perfect and he doesn't get everything right, but he has our interest at heart. And I believe that that's what he was trying to do with the tariffs. And I'm willing to wait and see the outcome of those tariffs. I'm ready to see this through. How good would I be at conservative politics? That's all he's trying to do right now. He's just trying to retreat back to that, to Scott Jennings, and Parker doesn't let him do it.
That he made better off?
What?
What's the main metric that he made better off? GDP, unemployment, inflation? Do you have any idea?
Listen.
I don't think you do.
Hold on. So you're arguing.
Now watch this. Now watch him reframe. He's not going to address the point. He's going to reframe Parker's argument, and he's going to say, "Oh, so you're arguing this?" No, it's a simple question. Could you just give us a metric that got better? He can't do it. So now he has to reframe this into a way where at worst they can agree to disagree. So at the end of this, he could say like, "Oh, wait, so you're telling me that Joe Biden's economy was better?" And Parker isn't dumb, so Parker's not going to just say yes and leave it at that. He's going to send it back like they're playing a tennis match here. But what he wants Parker to do is say yes, and then Dave Rubin will filibuster and name off a bunch of things that went poorly under Joe Biden, and then they'll run out of time and he'll be safe. That's his plan. He wants to be able to deflect this criticism back onto Joe Biden, and Parker did a great job not taking the bait.
Arguing that things economically were better under Joe Biden.
At the end of his administration, absolutely.
Yeah. Can you give me an example of how?
Yeah, GDP growth was better off. Real median wage growth was better off. Inflation was better off at the end of his administration. Unemployment was better off at the end of his administration. We had the worst year of job growth in the past 4 years.
Okay, 3 examples. Parker just rattled them off. Something Dave Rubin hasn't done yet. 3 examples off the cuff, and now he's bringing back to Trump and job creation.
Just this last year under Trump's administration, the inflation 3.8% year over year since Trump got in office. We're seeing all of those economic indicators become worse off. Can you tell me anything that he's done to make it better off? You say it's broken for Democrats. It sounds like it's broken right now under Trump.
Have you looked at the stock market?
It's worse off in terms of the growth in 2025 as compared to 2024.
So no. He had nothing, just the stock market, which again, if you're using that argument, the way that you need to articulate that, which Parker does a good job here, is like in terms of growth, like the pace of the growth of the job market. That's how you would compare presidencies. It wouldn't be dollar amount, because dollar amount, every president has the highest stock market. So you would never do that. Otherwise, whoever's currently president is always going to be the best on the stock market. I don't think anybody would accept that. But you would look at the rate of growth from the stock market if you wanted to compare stock market performance during the Trump administration and the Biden administration, and it's slower under the Trump administration.
Stock market?
It's worse off in terms of the growth in 2025 as compared to 2024 if you look at Dow Jones and S&P 500.
There you go. Great job by Parker. This is the best of the best for conservatives, by the way. This is one of those guys who goes out and debates, and you've got a bunch of TikTok debaters destroying him, and that's because TikTok debaters are doing real debate, honestly, when they actually get a real debate, and Dave Rubin isn't used to that. I wanted to do one more. This was actually from a different Surrounded. This was Glenn Greenwald, but I wanted to show this one. This is reversed. So Glenn Greenwald, in this case, is defending the proposition that the Trump administration has been considerably more corrupt than the Biden administration. Watch what happens when it's reversed and they try and play the same game in reverse.
Donald Trump's crypto endeavor. So
your argument is that conservatives are healthier than Democrats? That's weird. You're joining the dollar train. Everybody else, you can join the dollar train too. Cash App, Venmo, or PayPal are our preferred methods. You can also use super chats. If you can help us knock out that gift goal by the end of the live, that'd be it's a crazy thing to say. Trump does still own it. It's in a blind trust. If I start a business that can directly benefit me as president, but then I put it in a blind trust, and then I use the office of the presidency to force people to invest in my company, of which I still benefit financially, but on paper, I'm not making the decision. Is that not corruption? Where's MAGA here? Can you explain to me how World Liberty Financial is not corrupt? Because it's, again, corruption and being against the law, I guess that's not the same argument, but this is against the law. Why do you think the president should be able to own a company where he can use foreign policy and trade policy to convince people to invest in that company in exchange for contracts or weapons deals or chips deals or trade deals? Do you think he should be allowed to do that? Be allowed to take money from them and then give them trade deals or better terms on a contract? Phone talk. Talk to me for a second. And you guys think that should be allowed? That's also a good point. Blind trust is not generally run by your children. Can any of you just say, that you think that should be lawful? Phone, whatever your name is, phone auto talk, which you might obviously be a bot. Do any of you think that that's not corrupt? Oh, looks Max here. It's fight one document. We'll get there, Christopher.
And I would agree, think those activities were corrupt. There are lots of political...
Access phone auto talk is an idiot. Also, world would it be in the interest of the American public to take money from the Saudis, the Qataris, into your crypto fund? How would that be in the interest of the American public? This is, even if it was, it still violates the emoluments clause. We've lost so many people. This is a young person too. They should not be this easy to be indoctrinated. We've lost this guy. That's a pathetic argument. Allegedly, his net worth went lower, but this is a dumb argument too, because what we're talking about right now, you can talk about Trump's net worth, which we look at, which is up about $7 billion in this presidency, or you can get rid of net worth and you can just look at total cash. You look at the amount of cash, and you can figure that out. You can take all the foreign investments into World Liberty Financial, take 70% of the 3% fee, and that's cash. That is cash that Trump has gotten. And that's like, I think that number is like 1.3 or $1.4 billion. So now he's going back to say, oh, he lost it in his first time. So this time, now that it's going up, we're only talking about net worth. No. We're talking cash. If it was just his net worth, the value of his properties were going up, it could still be corrupt. In fact, he was corrupt in his first administration. People knew that in order to get a meeting, foreign dignitaries knew if they wanted a meeting with Trump, they would go and they would spend a bunch of money at one of Trump's hotels, either at Mar-a-Lago or the one in D.C., and they would rent out the ballroom, and they'd rent out like a whole floor of rooms, and they'd spend a bunch of money there, and then they could get a appointment with Trump. That was also corrupt. This is why you guys keep bringing up the peanut farm, but this is exactly why Jimmy Carter gave up his peanut farm. Even like the appearance of impropriety used to matter in this country. I think it was Abraham Lincoln who didn't take elephant tusks as a gift. And now we're to the point where MAGA is just like, actually, corruption's fine. Technically, it's not corrupt. And you only have to make this argument because Donald Trump is corrupt, and you refuse to acknowledge it. You're the only people who have ever defended a president who had to make this defense. No other president in the history of this country has ever had these accusations against them. Nobody else has ever been taking money from their company while they were president, while foreign countries were investing into that company. Trump was making, the president's making millions of dollars, and then he's cutting trade deals with them. This has never happened. And it's pathetic to just keep riding this bus. Yeah, I'm gonna keep sticking with this. This is totally normal. This has never happened. It's not the same as insider trading. It's substantially worse. It's foreign corruption on a level that we've never seen before. And you're just defending it. Why? Because it is a cult. It's not a movement of ideas. It's not a movement of policy. It's not even a movement of ideology. It is a movement of Trump. Trump is the ideology. He is the morals. Like you'll sacrifice all of your morals for Donald Trump to defend Donald Trump, and that's what we're seeing now. The Biden crime family people are suddenly like, what's wrong with committing a little crime when you're president? You change your insults from just like generically Democrats and try and respond to any of these arguments and just saying we're crazy instead of just saying that we're crazy. That'd be cool. All right, we're gonna get to it. What did you say? What did you say there? This one's silly. I guess we can do it before we. You said you hear what he's saying, morals, but you're fixing the vote for a Nazi as a Democrat. Let's cover real quick. Graham Plattner. If you think that Graham Plattner is a Nazi because he had a Nazi tattoo, by the way, it wasn't a Nazi tattoo. It was a tattoo that Nazis have used. So you just be honest about that. Did he have some? I mean, he's clearly Antifa. He's clearly anti-Nazi with all this. Like from everything that he was saying online before, he's not a Nazi. But Pete Hegseth is. Pete Hegseth has a Nazi tattoo, and that doesn't bother you. Do you think Pete Hegseth should go? Out of curiosity, what about Stephen Miller? Should Stephen Miller go? How's Stephen Miller not a Nazi? Secondly, Graham Plattner is being smeared by the DNC. Establishment Democrats and the party is who is running ads against Graham Plattner. Now, if I have any of the story incorrect, please feel free to correct me. But as far as I know, I don't usually cover politicians and their relationships, right? People, I don't think necessarily it is disqualifying for a politician if they have cheated on their spouse. Some people might think it's disqualifying. That's okay. We can have a difference of opinion there. But you, MAGA, you certainly don't get to have an opinion on that, right? You clearly don't get to have an opinion on that. You clearly can't call Graham Plattner a bad guy when you have Donald Trump, when you have Pete Hegseth, when you have Brett Kavanaugh, when you have Matt Gaetz, when you have Corey Mills. You certainly, you don't get to have that opinion, right? You must understand you don't get that opinion. Pete has a yes. Pete Hegseth, yes. Pete Hegseth in this. Look, let's look at Plattner's tattoo. Let's look at it. This is the tattoo. It doesn't have like a swastika on it, right? Let's be clear on that. Then he was told that it is a tattoo that Nazis and white nationalists use, and he covered it up. Now, let's look at Pete Hegseth's tattoo. This tattoo, right here on his chest. This tattoo is also used by Nazis. Now, Pete Hegseth's a lot more like a Nazi. Pete Hegseth certainly is espouses white nationalist and Nazi adjacent views. His belief in the Great Replacement theory, his belief that you should kill all Muslims. See, that's what I'm saying. See how you do this, bud? He says it's a Christian cross, but the Nazis also use it. This is the point. If his is a Nazi tattoo, or if Graham Plattner's is, his is. The Iron Cross, thank you. See how you guys don't play by the same rules ever, and you want us to like do this with you? You guys tell me Pete Hegseth's a like anybody who is claiming that Graham Plattner is a Nazi, you have to then accept that Pete Hegseth is too. But you won't. What do you mean? What do you mean? Wait, but you're just saying that you're saying it's a Christian cross because he says it's a Christian cross. He says even though it's very similar to Nazi tattoos, that's not what it was. And that's what Graham Plattner says too. He says the exact same thing. Why do you have different standards? I'm a Nazi. Your Nazi is a Nazi, not my Nazi. Yeah, exactly. And you wouldn't care if he was a Nazi. You just want to use that because you don't ever want to talk about anything substantial. But one of them openly espouses Nazi adjacent ideas. This guy. Can any of you tell me something? Those same people. Could you tell me something that that Graham Plattner has said that makes you believe that he has Nazi ideology? Is it frozen everywhere, Jen?
No, it looks like Twitch or Twitch was. I think it's back though.
Okay. Yes, Anikel. He said, "Kill all Muslims." That was what Pete Hegseth said. Kill all Muslims. Melanie said the swastika was used in religious sects centuries ago and could be found on Catholic robes during the Renaissance period. But they must have all been Nazis, right? Twitch sounds like if you refresh, it'll fix it. Sorry about that. Okay, did we make that point? Let's move on now. Okay, I want to get into the crux of the show today. I want to start with skip that. I want to start here. I don't know much about this person. I apologize if this person is problematic or not. I see him all the time. This guy right here, his name's Julian Dory, and he consistently has on people from the intelligence community. And I wouldn't say that I necessarily endorse this, but I thought this was an interesting take on who Trump is. And I think this is important because sometimes it's very confusing to put these pieces together. And I don't believe that Donald Trump is a part of really any of these movements. I don't think he's part of the tech oligarchy. I don't think he's part of the Zionist movement. I think that he is a useful idiot. I think that people recognize as long as they give Trump money and keep him in power, that he will go along with their stupid ideas, mostly because he doesn't care about anything but money. And so he has the worst people around him dragging him into shitty wars. I thought this was a good argument. You can let me know if you agree with it. Amy said, this symbol was flagged as a potential white nationalist extremist symbol by fellow service members. It caused military officials to bar Hegseth from guarding the 2021 presidential inauguration. That's true. Even our own military found that Pete Hegseth had troubling tattoos, but just Graham Plattner, right?
And this is where it doesn't make sense to me, knowing Trump.
I'm so sorry. I missed some. Let me get these real quick. Nasri, thanks for joining the Dollar Train. Denise, thank you as well. Christy said if they believed it, they wouldn't talk about it. Thank you. All right. And again, this is the meat of the conversation. We have about an hour and a half left in the show today. We're fairly far behind on the gift goal. I'll update that in a minute. But if you can help us knock that out, it'd be greatly appreciated. Like 900 people here. So if we all to collectively send $1, we knock that Dollar Train out quick, fast, and in a hurry.
I know this. Most people know this. Yeah. He follows the polls. He knows what's going on. He knows how people are responding to him. He's addicted to all of them. He likes to know how well he's doing. And his polls are record lows. Yeah. Literally the other day, he said, are you concerned about people's financial well-being or whatever?
I don't think about it at all.
He doesn't think about it at all.
Insane.
But he's saying these things so blatantly. And I'm like, look, whether you like Trump or not, he got himself into office. He's a clever dude at times. He's smart. He's doing so many things that are operating so differently from the previous Trump term, I would even say.
Yep.
I would argue that he's not that smart. That's what I would argue. I would argue that he has gotten significantly dumber and his base is just trained to believe everything he says. Jacques wants you to know not to give this idiot any money, by the way.
That make no sense in whatever way that you saw last time. You were like, my neighbor, this is actually a great story. I was going for a walk with my dog Cora, and my neighbor comes up, and he was pacing, and I was just like, "Hey, bro, Juan, what's going on?" Puerto Rican guy. And he just was ripped. He was like, "I need to talk to someone about this." And I was like, "What's going on?" He's like, "I just retired 4 years ago. I just voted for this dumbass president." His words. And gas is now up another $1. The stock market's out of control. He's like, "I'm about to have to go get another job, and I retired 5 years ago." And he's like, "I can't keep doing this. What the hell is he doing?" He's like, "I'm talking to my family. He's losing us. He's lost us at this point, honestly." Those were his words. And I'm like, damn, this is a guy that had an F Joe Biden flag flying around when I went down there. An F Joe Biden. And here he is, livid, pissed off. And I'm like, Trump, this is your base right here. This was a MAGA guy, not afraid to show how much he loves you. I think he had the hat at one point, wearing around MAGA hat.
Never was his base.
And now he's going against all those promises. And it's obvious we can be like, he's going against the promises, whatever. But knowing Trump for who he is, the fact he's doing so many things to anger his voter base, saying the sly comments of like, "I'm not concerned about their financial situations," or "the gas of oil, the barrel oil is not even that bad." It doesn't make any sense from the Trump we know. So
listen,
you never knew him. It was all fake. It's always been fake. It's always been a show. It's crazy for people to even think like the Trump that they knew was like, what did he deliver on from his first campaign? What are these campaign promises he delivered on? He's always been a phony. He was the whole time. It just takes it being this obvious for Americans to recognize that they're being lied to.
Some of it makes sense to me. Some of it.
So that's where I want to go with is I guess, making some presumptions, maybe with no evidence. Why do you think he's doing these things if he was so tuned in before? He's essentially become the opposite in so many ways.
Yeah.
And he knows he's losing his base. He won't admit it on camera, but I bet behind closed doors he's like, my polls are so low. What the heck? Why? Like, why would he do this?
I don't think he cares.
I don't think he cares either. Hazel said, more watermelons, please. There, I mean, you can be conspiratorial here. Maybe he doesn't care because he thinks he's going to win. Maybe he doesn't care because he's enriched himself and he thinks he's protected. Maybe he is protected. But yeah, I don't think he gives a shit about any of this stuff. It's very clear that this time around, all Trump cares about is he and his family and his friends making billions of dollars. And it's brazen. And for all of you that voted for him or are still supporting him, you're just enabling this. It seems like you guys are so frustrated that all you want is for Trump to get billions of dollars. You don't seem to care about the future of our country either. It's just like, yeah, as long as Donald Trump does well, I'll be happy. Danielle said, Graham Plattner went on a right-wing show called Valhalla VFT. At the end of the interview, Plattner said to the host that his show is his favorite and he watches him all the time. With all that said, I don't think he is a Nazi. I think he's a guy that got caught up with the wrong people and will be a great senator. Yeah, and he's admitted that he, and again, you don't have to forgive him. Whatever your thoughts are on Graham Plattner, he's admitted that he had some bad views and that he got caught up online and fell into some bad places. And admittedly, he has said that's like, I came back from serving and these were kind of my people. This is who I thought were my people. And we were angry and we were frustrated and we wanted somebody to blame. And so I fell down a rabbit hole and we got a little anti-Semitic. I think, again, you don't have to forgive him. You can say that people can't change or that people can change. But the only point was there is like, if you're going to do this about Graham Plattner, you have to do it about Pete Hegseth. You can't do one or the other.
It's been opposite day for him. I will be extremely excited if I'm wrong about what I'm about to say, and I will shout it from the rooftops and give him a ton of credit if he does 180s on a bunch of stuff. But right now, I think Donald Trump is shaping up to be the biggest Trojan horse in the history of our country.
Okay.
That's the best analogy. It's the best one I've heard so far. It's what's coming out once Trump entered the presidency. It's the tech oligarchs buying up all the infrastructure of our government, buying out, privatizing NASA, privatizing our military. It's the oil barons getting us to go and kidnap world leaders. It's AIPAC getting us to do their wars in the Middle East. I think that's the best analogy I've heard. Trump is the Trojan horse. He's the big fucking distracting thing that all these people hide inside of. And then, shit, hit my microphone. And then they get their grubby fingers on everything. You got fucking Peter Thiel and Palantir, just literally, like, their fingers are in everything now. They're touching everything. They've taken up the whole exoskeleton of our infrastructure. I think that's the best analogy I've ever heard about Donald Trump.
He is openly allied and inviting in the full-blown surveillance state down to the fucking FISA laws. Forget even Palantir and all that. He is hobnobbing with the elite.
Remember that? Just an extension and really an expansion of the FISA laws. The very FISA laws that he ran on we needed to tighten up and get rid of because they were too broad. Now they made them more broad. How the fuck did that happen? How did you guys go from fuck the FISA courts to I think the FISA courts need less oversight and more authority? How did that happen? Jacobs Rose said, for the Jaka, your person for getting donations for saying, do not give this guy any money. Here's to the dollar train. Choo choo, keep on chugging. Thank you, Dracos Rose. Hazel said, more watermelon, please. Marlene said, this is because the Jaka thinks you don't deserve it. Love you. You love what I learned from you. Oh, you do. She didn't say love you. Love what I learned from you. Thanks. But I do love you. Maylin said, dollar train. Thanks as always. And Nighthawk said, tell them to read. Yeah, it's easier said than done.
And protecting them, including the most insane elite pedophile ring to ever exist that we know of. You know, he is sticking a middle finger not in the face, but straight up the ass of people like Juan. And
that's you, the Jaka. That's all you, MAGA. That's Donald Trump's middle finger right up your ass. I love when other people are saying it too. It's becoming mainstream to say that Donald Trump is bending over MAGA and fucking them. I'd like to say I was on the front lines of that.
His base of everyday Americans who supported him and believed that, you know, he was going to have their back. He not only does it with his policies, he does it with his verbiage. He's always been off the cuff with verbiage and says dumb shit. But like he's saying things that 5 years ago he would never in a million years have said.
Yeah.
In fact, he would have said the complete opposite.
That's a great argument. Armando said Myles Garrett to the Rams. RIP Niners. Fuck Myles Garrett. Fuck the Rams. They're cheating for sure. Malika said, keep up the good work. There's no way they get Myles Garrett. That's bullshit. Amber said, wait until MAGA sees the gas prices coming. ExxonMobil and Chevron said, you'll see a slight dip in the next 2 weeks, then a sharp spike is coming. Going to be crazy, not to mention the 15 to 50% price increases on many items we need as well as the shortages are coming. I can't even like celebrate that because as somebody who, I mean, you guys know what we make around here. As somebody who has a daughter and would like to someday retire, I don't like that. Fuck Donald Trump and fuck you guys for still supporting this. It's getting gross. Chet said primaries in Iowa tomorrow. Get out and vote. Agreed. I did not know the primaries were tomorrow in Iowa. Excuse me. This is Denmark's Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen with a warning that introduces our topic here. Oops.
It's above that. And it is dangerous.
She's talking about AI here.
First of all, because there is a total established link between power, political power, capital, tech giants, and AI. And the purpose of this is undermining democracy. That's the goal. Because the people who are developing this stuff are against democracy. This is what is at stake. I met Sam Altman a couple of years ago. I spent hours with him.
Sam Altman, she said, that's the owner of OpenAI.
And at the end of the discussion, I said to him, you have created a monster. And he said, yes. And now it's up to you to find out how to deal with it.
That's what's inside the Trojan horse. And I wanted to use that to introduce today's topic today, which will take up the rest of the show. This is from our friend Danielle. Danielle, if you guys are not familiar with Danielle's the one who has nonstop bothered me about the election interference in 2024. And the closer or the further away we get from 2024, the more clear this begins to get. Now, this is an ex-CIA whistleblower who makes a claim that the NSA audited the 2024 election. Kamala Harris won. Now, this part, I'm not going to make a claim on this. I think that there's a lot to be said here. This is Stephen Greer. Stephen Greer also has a strange, let's say, a conspiratorial lean to his content. But last July, whistleblowers came forward regarding an NSA-authorized audit conducted in December of 2024, showing Kamala Harris won in a landslide. According to those whistleblowers, the findings were buried to protect wealthy pedophiles on both sides of the political aisle from a Harris DOJ. Here's the video.
What I'm going to say is that one of the most senior people in national security for a prior administration, and I met extensively for about 3 hours last year. He has the audio and the video of some files from Epstein Island of key people in our intelligence and national security system. I mean, he had to be very senior, that are compromised and are being actively blackmailed to slow down or distort disclosure. I'm going to say that, and I'll let that sit. I will say to the Department of Justice, if you want to inquire into this and pursue it, because we're talking blackmailing officials at the highest level that is interfering with the function of government. So that is what Epstein Island was. It was a honeypot set up by the intelligence community to entrap certain high-value targets and then control them through that process of blackmail. This happens all the time. Everyone knows J. Edgar Hoover had huge files on everyone, every mistress for every president. That's how he stayed in office. But this is serious. This is something that can really affect the truth of what gets to the president and Congress, or whether things are allowed to come out. So this is something that has to get nipped in the bud. I won't say who the officials are who were compromised, where I got the information, or who's doing the blackmailing, but I know the two senior former government officials doing the blackmailing. I know both of them.
Okay, so obviously on that's Stephen Greer, ex-CIA, NSA, ex-CIA whistleblower. Doesn't give us anything there that we can verify. So let's be clear on that. He's making an accusation that there was an audit. We're not even aware if there was an audit. The accusation is that it showed that Harris won. We're not aware of that, and that the reason that it was not released is that it would hurt people who are protected on both sides of the political aisle, who are wealthy pedophiles. We can assume that's a connection to Jeffrey Epstein, right? Is Twitch struggling again today? Sorry about that. It could be my internet too. I don't know. My internet was sporadic this morning. Let me look real quick. Seems like it's doing okay. Last week, May 8th, was when Stephen Greer held that conference. He said he has the audio and video of some files from Epstein Island of key people in our intelligence and national security system that are compromised and are actively being blackmailed. I don't know who those people are. They're not telling us who they are. While Dr. Greer is discussing the suppression of UAPs in this video, his confirmation that officials at the highest level of our intelligence and national security system are compromised and being blackmailed directly corroborates what whistleblowers stated last year. Now, here's the whistleblower report. In December 2024, I was personally involved in an NSA. Oh, excuse me. This is where I fucked this up. Thanks, Danielle. She didn't correct me on this. I thought Stephen Greer was the one making these accusations, and I mixed that up. This is him talking about UAPs. The NSA whistleblower is not Stephen Greer. So I fucked that up, and I am just realizing it now as we're reading that. That's why you were confused, Danielle. Wherever you are, thank you. Now I understand why you said Stephen Greer doesn't matter for this. Thank you. But Danielle. Danielle's smart. In December 2024, I was personally involved in an NSA-authorized forensic audit of the 2024 election. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz won by a wide margin. Trump lost dramatically. There are multiple layers of complexity to this cover-up, including transnational organized crime syndicates that extend far beyond the United States and our elections. To that point, I work in the human trafficking sector, which intersects with the stolen elections and has ties to Trump and Epstein, not to President Biden, Vice President Harris, or Governor Walz, but to the Democrats and other allied interests responsible for bearing the audit. That's according to Adam Zarnowski, who's the former CIA agent and author of Jorg Moongonder. As an aside, a 2025 Snopes article whose author did not respond to my correspondence and attempted to use LinkedIn to rebuff one of the whistleblowers is not proof that the NSA-authorized audit does not exist. If we've learned anything from the Epstein fallout over the last year, it's that our Justice Department and intelligence agencies have been lying and covering for each other for decades. I think that's clear. I don't even think that we have anybody here that would argue that the Justice Department and intelligence agencies previous to this administration and this administration have been lying and covering for each other for decades. Does anybody disagree with that? I think this is a good time for MAGA and everybody else to probably agree that, we shouldn't trust our intelligence agencies or the Justice Department. Then in December 2025, roughly 3 million Epstein files were released, and the American people realized just how compromised both Republicans and Democrats are. Some people still don't think it's MAGA or Trump, but you recognize Republicans in there. I'm going to skip over the Zion. Well, let's go there. This is some connection. It's important to understand the distinction between Zionism and Judaism as we go forward here. The difference is significant and it matters. This piece discusses Zionism and its impact on democracy in the United States, an issue distinctly separate from Judaism. As Dr. Greer said, so that is what Epstein Island was. It was a honeypot set up by the intelligence community to entrap certain high-value targets and then control them through the process of that blackmail. This part was interesting to me because what we know about Jeffrey Epstein and his abuse of children all takes place in the United States. I don't know that we have any charges from him. Even in the Epstein files, I don't know that we have any charges of things happening on Epstein Island. I don't think our understanding of Epstein Island is correct based on the information I've been given. It seems to me that most Americans think that Jeffrey Epstein was trafficking young girls to this island where they were outside of the law, and he was abusing children with elite pedophiles from around the world. That doesn't actually seem to be the case when it comes to what we've seen from the Epstein files. In fact, it seems to be that the stuff that happened on Epstein Island may have involved human trafficking, but it seems to be adults. It seems to be really wild sex parties. Remember Elon's emails to Epstein talking about like the parties they were going to have? Which nights are the craziest? Everybody seemed to know that those were crazy. That's a perfect setup for a honeypot. And the people that you want to target for a honeypot are going to be married people. They're going to be religious people. They're going to be people who are, maybe anti-drug or, anti-trafficking. And you're going to put them in a compromising situation. You're going to record them doing something compromising. And you're going to say, we own you now. And you don't have to do anything. but you have to protect us. Or perhaps you need to vote for these particular bills, or maybe when our friend Jeffrey Epstein gets in trouble, you've got to help him get out of this. And you're going to see some really familiar names as we get through this. The Zionists were secretly building nuclear weapons during the Eisenhower administration. In the 60s, they stole or diverted weapons-grade uranium from the United States during what became known as the Apollo Affair. Then they deployed who? Robert Maxwell in the 80s to sell Inslaw's stolen Promise software with an Israeli backdoor embedded into it to nuclear laboratories. Where? In New Mexico. You want to make the connection between Jeffrey Epstein and the Zionists? They stole our nuclear secrets. They diverted weapons-grade uranium from the United States. They stole it. And then they took Ghislaine Maxwell's dad, and they sold this software that had an Israeli backdoor to nuclear laboratories in New Mexico, where Jeffrey Epstein also had another place. We're going to run out of coincidences here. Are we doubting the victims about being on Epstein Island now? I don't think that. Which victims claimed they were on Epstein Island, Michael? I don't think they're talking about all the victims that I saw in the Epstein files. Most of them took place in Palm Beach, New Mexico, and New York. That's what I'm saying. I don't think our understanding of what Epstein Island was is that understanding. Now, Jeffrey Epstein abused a lot of girls. I'm sure there are accusations of Epstein hurting girls and abusing girls on Epstein Island. I'm just saying that for a lot of us, and what's been pitched to us, is that Epstein Island was where he would take powerful people and they would traffic children. And I'm just saying the Epstein files that we have so far, and we only have half of them, seem to be here. Right? Does that make sense? You guys correct me if I'm wrong. I just don't know of any. I don't know any of these victims who claim they were on the island. They all claim to be, a lot of them in Palm Beach, like they were recruiting each other. New York, a lot of them came from modeling agencies. That's all we're saying here. I think that what Epstein Island was designed to be, this sounds right, that it was a honeypot situation, which you could use. You could, if you recorded somebody with an underage girl, you use that as a honeypot operation as well. It also backs up what what's Elon's girlfriend's name that's coming out now? Whatever her name is. I'm bad with names. It also backs up what she said, that there's all these honeypot operations that Republicans are recruiting young, attractive girls. Ashley St. Clair, thank you. Ashley St. Clair said this. She said this about Emily Saves America, that they're using girls as honeypots to get what they want. All right. Got that one. Robert Maxwell also ran honeypot operations. He was widely described as an intelligent asset for Israel and Russia, and in many ways the precursor to Epstein. Note, this is how Israel acquired its nuclear technology. So for the 30 years of Benjamin Netanyahu's bluster about Iran supposedly building nuclear weapons, it's important to remember that Zionist operatives were doing precisely what he accuses of Iran of doing, and that the Reagan administration looked the other way. In fact, in 1985, the Adi Lotman Interdisciplinary Program was established at Tel Aviv University by Professor Yehuda Elkanah. Highly selective, it drew participants from Israel's National Defense College, the Civil Service, and the global Jewish diaspora. It was funded in part by a $10 million contribution from who? Les Wexner, through the Les Wexner Heritage Foundation. Les Wexner is, of course, we'll get here, in February of '88, Epstein was managing Wexner's finances. This is the guy that started Victoria's Secret. Then he gives $10 million to establish the Tel Aviv University, the Adi Lotman Interdisciplinary Program at Tel Aviv University. That same month, Wexner Heritage Foundation hosted a national fundraising retreat in Palm Beach titled Models of Ethical Leadership. And who did they bring as their keynote speaker? Benjamin fucking Netanyahu, the perfect model of ethical leadership, Mr. Genocide himself. In '91, Wexner and Charles Bronfman helped establish a private study group, later known as MAGA Group, a network of wealthy businessmen focused on philanthropic and strategic initiatives related to Israel, including Hillel International, as well as institutions shaping U.S. foreign policy discourse, such as, I'm stumbling over my words, such as the Washington Institute for Near East Policy. Years later, members of the mega group, Charles Bronfman and Michael Steinhardt, co-founded Birthright Israel, which is, I don't know what tagline is, with the support of who again? Benjamin Netanyahu. The program later received substantial financial backing from Trump mega donors Sheldon and Miriam Adelson. Surprise, surprise. In 91, Wexner granted Epstein power of attorney over his entire estate. Epstein also served as a trustee for the Wexner Foundation from 91 to 2007. To outside observers, he appeared to have parlayed his time at Bear Stearns, where he was very unsuccessful and was fired because he was a shitty trader and a shitty fund manager, into one of the most powerful financial positions imaginable. But the structure of that access raises questions. Some analysts have pointed to overlapping timelines, financial, political, and intelligence linked, to argue that Epstein's rise was not incidental. Within that framework, he is described as an intermediary, someone capable of cultivating relationships with powerful individuals, facilitating access, and potentially gathering compromising information, which we obviously know if you've read the Epstein files. He knew fucking everybody. He knew everybody. This is where concepts like honey traps and compromise enter the discussion. Epstein had no formal financial credentials and lacked the pedigree typical of elite financial circles, yet was granted extraordinary control over wealth and access to influential networks. To many observers, that trajectory is difficult to explain. Who does this sound like? Is there anybody that this sounds like currently that you can think of? Now, Epstein's dead. Obviously, he's not running it. Who doesn't have formal financial credentials, doesn't have the pedigree typical of elite financial circles, yet is granted extraordinary control over wealth and access to influential networks? Let's see if you come up with the same name I came up with. Trump's a good guess, close. I'll read comments while you're guessing. Epstein's place in Palm Springs is 1.5 to 2 miles from Mar-a-Lago. I think you meant Palm Beach. And his New York place was 0.6 miles from Trump's. Axe said, thanks, Danielle. I know you put a lot of time and research into all your stuff, and thanks for your compassion after my surgery. Oh, and thank you, RTP. Kushner, there it is. Jared fucking Kushner. Suddenly, the Saudis, the Qataris, rich people all the world are giving Kushner their money. And Kushner, not a member of our government, is negotiating these deals. Sounds pretty familiar, doesn't it? Kushner's Mossad. You make a good argument. Pretty close. Pretty close with the Netanyahus. I don't know that there's anybody that fits that bill, a roly-poly bolo, better than Kushner. Just in the way that he's managing money out of nowhere. There's a lot of people getting rich out of nowhere. It's a good point, William. Daddy Kushner, Jared Kushner's dad, was pardoned. Who is that? 10 Hop-On said Lex Wexner lied in his deposition. If you watched it, he almost jumped out of his chair when caught, yet nothing. All right. Epstein had got that. Unless something else was at work, something more sinister than anyone else could have known. An intelligence operation designed to elevate Zionism as a priority within the U.S. government, to sustain funding and access for Israel's nuclear program, and to do so by cultivating influence over powerful decision makers by luring them into Epstein's depraved circle. This depraved circle was funded by Les Wexner, the Ohio State benefactor based in Columbus, where, according to the Epstein files, Jeffrey Epstein was making $25,000 quarterly payments to the university's OBGYN department. Now, this is also maybe unrelated, just happens to be where Jim Jordan was a wrestling coach, where they covered up sexual abuse, and Jim Jordan lied to cover up sexual abuse at Ohio State University. Jim Jordan was implicated by Sasha Riley. I haven't seen confirmation of his attendance at certain places outside of that, but that also seems to be strange. Wexner and every other billionaire implicated in the Epstein files belong in prison, which is why Trump was able to steal the election without consequences to ensure that wealthy pedophiles would never get prosecuted. My friends will get hurt, said Trump to Marjorie Taylor Greene. As covered in The Octopus for the Zionist actors, nothing was off the table, including leveraging blackmail to extract sensitive weapons and nuclear-related information from New Mexico, or New Mexico-based scientists, and ensure continued strategic influence within the U.S. government to keep Israel deep in the legislative wallet. Both Republicans and Democrats are compromised. Again, that's why we call Trump the Trojan horse. Trump is the big distraction they all need. And this effort includes rigging of elections, as the Epstein files revealed through the collusion of Jeffrey Epstein, Peter Thiel, and Russia to deliver the 2016 election to Donald Trump, which we wrote about in this article. You can go read. It's called She Won, How Epstein and Peter Thiel Colluded with Russia to Rig the 2016 Election. All right. Now let's get to this. In 2017, the Senate Intelligence Committee report on Russian interference, bipartisan, by the way, found that the Russian government had engaged in an extensive campaign to sabotage the election in favor of Trump, which included assistance from some of Trump's own advisors. The committee described an unprecedented level of activity against state election infrastructure by Russian intelligence that targeted all 50 states. Ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee, Jim Hines from Connecticut, covered this on Brian Tyler Cohen's show. Here it is.
Okay, so that was the Deputy Attorney General saying that Tulsi Gabbard just so happened to be present in Atlanta, because who among us doesn't just find ourselves in the middle of an FBI search warrant being executed? Can I have your reaction to that statement from Todd Blanche?
Yeah, I mean, it's just absurd, right? I mean, I think Todd Blanche is a lawyer, right? I mean, it used to be that if you were the number 2 at the Justice Department, you probably had some legal understanding. So Todd Blanche understands what is involved when an enormously powerful entity, a spy entity, the intelligence community, is operating inside the U.S. and how completely unacceptable that is. Again, the fact that he sort of fadabadabbed it, nothing to see here, suggests to me that he wasn't going to be the one. You just asked me about Republicans. He wasn't going to be the one to say, yeah, that's a good question. We ought to look into that.
Right.
But it's not just, let's back up a second here. The intelligence community does have a role in sussing out foreign interference in our elections. Now, by the way, the Trump administration is completely opposed to that notion because they're so allergic to the fact that Russia intervened twice to try to elect Donald Trump. 3 times, actually, twice successfully. We've seen people who do election integrity work, who monitor elections, who look for foreign efforts to alter our elections, fired, sidelined, taken out of the equation. But nonetheless, if you were going to give the benefit of the doubt to this administration, which you are not going to do, because we know that Donald Trump will pull out all the stops to alter the results of elections that he doesn't like, you would say, well, maybe Tulsi Gabbard and the intelligence community was looking for foreign interference. Well, if you were doing that, you'd be doing cyber work. You'd be talking about intelligence collection. You'd be talking to the NSA. You would not be physically showing up in Fulton County, Georgia.
Yes. Why in the world would we need to just go look at ballots? It's not what they're doing. It's going to get deeper. It gets more and more gross. We may go a little bit over today. We'll see what happens. So they know, and they're openly acknowledging that Russia infiltrated our elections, and we're doing nothing to remove this illegitimate regime. On July 22nd, 2016, there's a dog outside my window. That's weird. On July 22nd, 2016, WikiLeaks released 19,252 DNC emails stolen by Russian hackers. Let's remember that. Years later, in November of 2019, Trump deputy campaign manager Rick Gates testified in a D.C. federal court that Roger Stone informed Donald Trump in July of 2016 that WikiLeaks was planning to publicly release documents hacked by Russia. So Trump was well aware that Russia was interfering in the election on his behalf, and then he publicly invited them to take it a step further. On July 27th, 2016, Trump stated at a news conference, "Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing. I think you will probably be rewarded mightily by our press." Did you ever get those, by the way? You ever get those? That's a good point, actually. Israel tried to pay Charlie Kirk $150 million to keep supporting Zionism, and when he didn't take the money, they had him killed. Allegedly. It's a good point that allegedly that happened. Be very careful there. On that same day, the same day Trump said that, Russian hackers targeted Clinton's accounts. GOP operative Peter Smith reached out to the Russian hacker known as Guccifer 2.0 and to alt-right activists in his effort to obtain the supposed emails that had been stolen from Hillary Clinton's private server. In August of 2016, Trump insider Paul Manafort handed off proprietary polling data to Kremlin operatives Konstantin Kilimnik and Oleg Deripaska. By the way, this is the guy who literally worked for Russia. He was running Trump's campaign. His job before running Trump's campaign was running opposition campaigns for Russia in Crimea. Or maybe, yeah, I think it was in Crimea. Sorry if I got the place in Ukraine wrong. On August 29th, 2016, an email exchange between Epstein and Trump insider Tom Pritzker. Remember Tom Pritzker, old JB's brother, who had to step down? Remember him? He had to step down because he was in the Epstein files. Here he is talking about Epstein. Referenced Ehud Barak, Russian ambassador Vitaly Churkin, and Tom Barak, who was exposed by a whistleblower of orchestrating a nuclear deal involving Russia, Saudi Arabia, and Michael Flynn. Q, questions you would like posed in your absence. Answer, how close will race need to go before Russians, or for Russians to give us an October surprise? Which of Hillary's emails was most entertaining? Seems like they had access to Hillary's emails, if they exist. On October 7th, Epstein put his girlfriend Karina Shuliak in charge of an important lunch meeting to introduce Peter Thiel to Russian ambassador Vitaly Churkin, the same Vitaly Churkin that facilitated Trump's first trip to Moscow in 1987. Weird. You don't think Epstein had anything to do with Trump's first trip to Moscow, right? Right? They were likely meeting to discuss the Access Hollywood tape coming out that day, and within 30 minutes of the Access Hollywood tape release, WikiLeaks began publishing the hacked Clinton Podesta emails. I wonder why that was. Why would they release that? Why would they want to take the attention off of the Access Hollywood tape? There's so many tentacles of this octopus. The release of the Epstein files brings together a network of bad actors with an aligned agenda. Epstein, Thiel, Jeff Guy, I don't know who that is. Gaisia, Zuckerberg, Steve Bannon, Mike Flynn, Tom Barak, Eric Prince, Paul Manafort, Roger Stone, Donald Trump Jr., Russian operatives, and others all conspired together in the lead up to the 2016 election. You'll notice in those Epstein files, not a peep of Kamala Harris or Joe Biden or Hunter Biden or Barack Obama. A lot of Clinton stuff. A lot of wealthy donors. Not much from political operatives, though. On the morning following the 2016 election, I can skip that. That's just Peter Thiel responding. But I wanted to get down to this. Peter Thiel's protege, J.D. Vance, was selected as vice president to place Thiel, a racist South African-born immigrant who could never run for president himself, at the head of the United States. The tyranny of an unelected minority brought to us by stolen elections and Democrats who refuse to acknowledge them. Here's some shit I didn't fucking know. Can I zoom in even more on this? Sorry if you can't see this very well. If we go backwards to November 2000, a lot of us were young. I was still in high school when this happened, but this is the Bush v. Gore. This election came down to Florida. Initially, they called the election, I think, for Gore, but they had missed like the panhandle of Florida, which is deeply red. So then they pulled back on that call and said it was too close to call. Eventually, we had a recount. But in November of 2020, Jeb Bush, George Bush's brother, is the governor. A network of conservative lawyers then flew to Florida and intervened to halt the counting of Democratic ballots, helping secure the presidency for George Bush by a margin of 537 votes. Let me get to that, and then I'll go back to this. I went way back in the archives today to find some of these videos. This is just, sorry for the footage. That's just how TV used to look. If we got any millennials here, or Gen Z, this is what we used to have to watch all the time. This is a recap of the recount in Florida.
All Al Gore needs.
Did I say 2020? I meant 2000. Thank you.
Florida.
Recount. They are saying recount.
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 We have been thrown into a horrifying and tumultuous nightmare known as the recount.
19 years ago this week,
it's time to pack it in.
The Florida recount ended, and the presidential election was settled when the U.S. Supreme Court effectively ruled in favor of Texas Governor
George W. Bush!
While I strongly disagree with the court's decision, I accept it.
I wonder how proud that guy was being that into George W. Bush. That doesn't age well.
After a difficult election, we must put politics behind us. I'm optimistic that we can change the tone in Washington, D.C.
It had been 5 long weeks since election night.
We think it may be the closest election in 40 years.
This is the answer.
Whoever wins Florida wins the presidency.
At 7 p.m. Eastern Time, most of the polls in Florida were closing.
We would rather be last in reporting a return than to be wrong.
They were wrong.
I'm going to let this play real quick while I go to the bathroom.
NBC News projects Al Gore wins the state of Florida.
Problem is, there's still a few minutes left before polls close in the Western Panhandle.
You all called Florida before Florida even closed its polls.
Just before 10 p.m. Eastern Time.
NBC News is now taking Florida out of Vice President Gore's column. Too close to call.
Too close to call.
Then Bush was the projected winner.
George Bush is the president-elect of the United States.
Gore called Bush to concede, then he called to retract that concession.
It's a tie.
Talk of recounts all over the place.
Whenever an election in the state of Florida is within 0.5%, there is an automatic recount.
Our campaign continues. Mr. Vice President, did you win the election, sir?
We're having a great run here.
As of 5 p.m. today, the unofficial certified results, a difference of 1,784 votes.
After a machine recount, Bush's lead drops to 327 votes. Gore's team requests manual recounts in 4 Democrat-heavy counties. Election officials are counting the undervotes, ballots that didn't register a vote for any presidential candidate. These butterfly ballots confused some voters.
Voters need to remember that they should punch the hole next to the arrow, next to the number, next to the name of the candidate.
Sometimes resulting in hanging chads, a punch hole that didn't fully detach from the paper ballot.
It's slightly detached.
Only one of the 4 counties is able to complete its recount within the 1-week deadline. Katherine Harris is now ready to certify the election. But the Florida Supreme Court stops her and ultimately orders a statewide
manual recount.
The next day, the U.S. Supreme Court stepped in.
A trial unlike any in history.
Never before has the United States Supreme Court taken up a case that could decide a presidential election.
On December 12th, the court released...
Very, very progressive. Those must have been the feminists there.
2 decisions. One, the recount has been unconstitutional. Different standards were applied between counties and even between ballots, which is a violation of the Equal Protection Clause. Secondly, in a narrow 5-4 decision, the court decided that even though it's been an unconstitutional process, there's just not enough time to do it right.
It is obvious that the recount cannot be conducted in compliance with the requirements of equal protection and due process without substantial additional work.
The recount is over.
I accept the finality of this outcome. I offer my concession.
Our nation must rise above a house divided. Republicans want the best for our nation, and so do Democrats.
All right. So if we want to link some of these things together, and we are being conspiratorial today, not long after this election, we had 9/11, funded by the Saudis, I think with people with Saudi and Qatari passports. Is that correct? And we were quickly shuffled into a war in Iraq, and we were lied to about that war and dragged in by Dick Cheney, the Bush administration, by Benjamin Netanyahu. And I want you to see. We're going to get to some of the players in making this happen.
The historic decision will certainly be remembered as the one that put a president in the White House.
I, George Walker Bush, do solemnly swear.
It may also become a decision that expands the judiciary's role in future elections as well.
All right. Just wanted to refresh there. Let's go back to this chart, though. This is the legal team for the Bush administration. James Baker and Ted Cruz. I didn't honestly know that. On that team, current Supreme Court Justice John Roberts, current Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, and current Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett, whose job it was to argue in front of the Supreme Court that you can't audit this election. It will take too long to audit this election. You just have to give it to Trump. Or excuse me, to Bush, sorry. The same people making the same argument that we're seeing here in the chat. You can't, it needs to end on election night. It has to end on election night when we're winning, when our votes are counted. In 2005, George Bush then appointed Alexander Acosta as the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida. Alexander Acosta, the one that gave the sweetheart deal to Jeffrey Epstein. He was a Kirkland and Ellis alum. That name matters. The name Kirkland and Ellis matters a lot. He's a former law clerk to Justice Alito. 2007, Alex Acosta. Oh, excuse me. Acosta was on this legal team too, and then he was appointed. Then in 2007, Acosta signs a non-prosecution agreement with Jeffrey Epstein that protects not just Jeffrey Epstein, but all co-conspirators, whether named or unnamed, which would include Donald Trump. I think we forget. I think I definitely forget about that. That Acosta gave Epstein the sweetheart deal, and we talk about that, but it also protected all co-conspirators, whether named or unnamed, which is the exact defense that Ghislaine Maxwell has been trying to use. That she should have been protected by this non-prosecution agreement, but of course it's in Florida, so they do the non-prosecution elsewhere. The abuse from Trump takes place in Florida, or the alleged by Trump takes place in not only Florida, but also in New York, but he would be protected by this non-prosecution agreement in Florida. The deal was negotiated by some other people you may know. Ken Starr, who ran the Clinton impeachment inquiry, or I guess litigation, and Jay Lefkowitz. They also work at Kirkland, former colleagues at Kirkland and Ellis. And it was approved by Mark Flipp, who was the Deputy Attorney General and also a former Kirkland partner. Then Donald Trump nominates Brett Kavanaugh, who of course was part of this team, to the Supreme Court. Previously worked on the Bush-Gore legal team, and where else? Kirkland and Ellis. Then Amy Coney Barrett, who was also on the legal team, was nominated to the Supreme Court. She worked at Miller, Cassidy, LaRocca, and Lewin, later managed by Baker Botts, led by James Baker, who assembled this initial team and was worked with, I believe, Kirkland and Ellis as well. October 2025, the court today, when Ghislaine Maxwell's certification petition reached the Supreme Court, the bench included 3 former Bush v. Gore lawyers, Roberts, Kavanaugh, and Barrett. October 25th, the result was none of them recused, and the court declined to hear the appeal, further protecting Trump, whether named or unnamed, as a co-conspirator. That's how you do it. That's how you connect and rig an entire system. And this is pretty good. This is pretty compelling that you have a group of people who are deeply powerful, deeply connected, and we're protecting not Epstein, but Israel and our intelligence communities who work with Israel. It's not to say that necessarily they knew that this was going to happen. I do believe that when Epstein got caught, I bet most of their reaction was like, fuck. All right, Epstein got caught. What are we going to do? Let's have him. We'll work with Acosta. Acosta will cut this deal with him. He'll have to go to jail. And they probably told Epstein, you're going to have to go to jail, but we're going to protect all your sources here. It'll be a light sentence. You'll get out of jail. You'll be fine. Everybody who was afraid of Epstein at that point, who could be buried, is covered under this non-prosecution agreement. And then suddenly, in 2019, there's a federal indictment. And I think a lot of people got scared. I'm certain that all these people in the Epstein files were very scared. And then Epstein dies. Let's just call it suspiciously. Deeply powerful and right-leaning, but let Obama run the country for the better part of the decade. Well, some interesting arguments there. We'll get to that in a minute. Remind me when we talk about Karl Rove to talk about Epstein. Or Obama, because I think that there's limits here. Oh shit, I got to get back to the outline. Hold on. Again, I'm making a lot of guesses here, and you guys are welcome to throw in your 2 cents here. We were further down here. There we were. So this is the timeline now that we want to get into on how you possibly can steal an election. Too big to rig is correct, proud atheist. Obama was too popular. Obama was far too popular to lose that election. I can tell you as somebody who worked on the Romney campaign, the Republicans, the people running it, were very confident that they were going to win. And they were confident based on the amount of Scantrons that we had put out. They thought that we had enough of a base that we were going to win that election. They sent us home early. I was in the Chicago airport when they called that election for Obama. We landed still thinking that Romney was going to win. They called the election like while we were making our connecting flight. Or I guess maybe we drove to Chicago. I can't remember. Yeah, we flew in maybe from Cedar Rapids to Chicago, catching a connecting flight back to Utah. So we thought we won that one too. That's because that's the old meme. Let's talk about the elections, though. We've written, this is again from This Will Hold. It's their Substack. They said we've written extensively about the far right ownership of election equipment since the implementation of electronic voting, along with the GOP's decades-long election manipulation. In 1979, there's a company called ES&S. They were under investigation by the Department of Justice. That investigation ended following a change in administration in Washington. The company's president, David Dunbar, later said, "I used to kid people. We had to get Ronald Reagan elected to get this thing killed." In 2000, the Brooks Brothers riot, which is what they call these people in suits, Ted Cruz, John Roberts, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett, assisted in halting the recount to deliver the election to Bush. Caltech later documented the disappearance of between 4 and 6 million votes. Because of that recount, we lost 4 to 6 million votes. No way that election was accurate. Maybe Bush won, maybe he didn't. Sure, shit wasn't accurate. In 2004, the use of Diebold equipment, despite concerns it had been compromised, the CEO promised to deliver the election to Bush. Investigators later discovered the use of an Ohio mirror site on election night, a hack similar to the 2024 fake county vote banks. Now here we're gonna go into some explanation because I didn't know what the fuck that meant when Danielle sent this to me. I've now since watched another video unrelated, which hopefully you've seen, Danielle, about something called mirror sites. This I'll get to that actually in 1 second, but I first want to show this. These Diebold machines. This is an older video, but I found this on. Shout out Pete Andrews who kept this on YouTube for some reason. This is a 15-year-old video about how these Diebold machines can be hacked, and I'll push through kind of quickly here. Today. So this guy right here is the person who says that these can be hacked, and what he has is a memory card. And the memory card is what goes into the Diebold machine that, again, not connected to the internet or anything nefarious. There's just a memory card in there that once the votes are tabulated, it saves on the hard drive or the memory card there, and then it prints out the results. So this guy is going to sit in the other room, and all of these people, we'll see here. Let's see.
The next activity that the
where's the
election
voting?
worker does.
Okay.
The enter card in this device.
So they go in and they randomly select one of these machines. There's like 100 machines. This lady draws out I think it's here.
Harry, and that we're going to vote yes.
Yeah, they draw out the number of the machines, and then all of these people are going to vote, and they're all just going to vote yes or no on whether or not the Diebold machine's votes can be changed. And now let's get to the actual vote.
Touched.
Okay, so now he's going to give them the memory card.
Piece of Diebold equipment that you've used. That's correct. Well, thank you. Let me take your ballot in. This card will go into this slot. The next activity that the election worker does on the morning of the election is turn the machine on, making it live to receive votes.
Packonomics, if you have listened to a word that I've said, it actually has said that this included both Democrats and Republicans. So that's weird that you're saying that. Nobody is saying that that Democrats couldn't have done this. However, the election machines and these companies are largely owned by right-wingers. Most of our contested elections have gone with the biggest like fraud indicators. Those keep going to Republicans. So it is interesting.
To do that, this machine will produce what is called a zero total tape. The machine is going through a self-test analysis, and then it'll spontaneously turn on.
Okay, you can see, it's hard to see 0 yes votes, 0 no votes there. So that's the test run.
This is Harry's card that is telling us that there are 0 votes stored in the memory. Okay, let me get the ballots. Let's insert a yes ballot. We're going to put in another no.
Democrats control them up until 2023. No, they didn't. We just explained to you that this was purchased by a conservative company in 1979. You're lying about that.
7. And the last no ballot, 8. Placing the ender card in this device and telling it to turn off its counting function and do its reporting function will now cause the voting machine to print out a tape reading the number of votes that it had just read. Oh my.
I believe it was 2 yeses and 6 nos is what they put in there. I can't remember exactly. I think, and they might cover that, but I think it was 2 yeses and 6 nos, and it's coming out 7 yeses and 1 no.
Oh no! What is it? 7 yes, 1 no. Oh my god! Oh my gosh! Let me see.
Here's the tape.
7 people said it could be hacked,
and we put through 6 and 2.
6
no's
no's
and
2
2
yeses.
Oh my gosh, do you know what this means?
How do we know that Hari didn't just change the report and the votes themselves on the memory card are still correct? If that was the case, when they go into GEMS, the results would be different, isn't that right?
So just to save time, they go into GEMS, they go in, which is the reporting software, and it shows the exact same thing. It was that simple back then to rig those elections. All right. In 2016, obviously, we had the collusion between Epstein, Thiel, and Russia to rig the election for Trump, as documented in the Epstein files. In 2020, there was evidence of manipulation for Trump, which proved unsuccessful due to the surge of mail-in voters. President Biden won by close to 7 million votes. Now, you got to ask yourself, why is Trump so convinced that the mail-in ballots are fraudulent? He doesn't have any evidence that they're fraudulent. What could you reasonably assume about Donald Trump and as to why he is so convinced that the mail-in ballots are a problem without any evidence? Any guesses on that? Because there was a surge of mail-in voters and they couldn't rig it. Somebody said, too big to rig. He expected to be able to rig it above the mail-in ballots. Otherwise, why would he hold on to this belief? Why would so many of you hold on to this belief without any evidence? Why are you so convinced? There's been people in here today. Like, we got to get rid of mail-in ballots. Why? What's your evidence that they're a problem? You don't have any. So work backwards. Where did that claim come from? Because you didn't come up with that claim on your own. It's not like one day you were like, oh, it's the fucking mail-in ballots. That's the problem. No, somebody told you to say that. Who told you to say that? Came from Trump. Worked its way down. Because dead people would vote. Yeah, see? It's the dead people. It's all the dead people. But then we audit it and the dead people aren't voting. We're auditing these mail-in ballots. They haven't found any evidence that these mail-in ballots are fraudulent. 2024, Elon bought Twitter 49 days after Putin invaded Ukraine for over $20 billion over market, then stepped in to assist Russia in rigging the election for Trump. These are their claims. Let's talk about 2024 specifically. Some of you have already mentioned Leonard Leo. In March of 2021, Leonard Leo, far-right religious zealot and judicial kingmaker, sold a quiet Chicago company by the name of Triplite for $1.65 billion. Triplite is an approved election vendor with access to roughly 70% of U.S. election equipment infrastructure. The buyer, Eaton Corporation, a global power infrastructure conglomerate that just happened to have a partnership with Peter Thiel's Palantir. After the Triplite acquisition, Eaton stayed under the radar, but in May of 2024, it resurfaced with an announcement. Eaton was deepening its partnership with Palantir Technologies. In September of 2024, Eaton formally partnered with Elon Musk. The stated purpose? A vague, forward-looking collaboration focused on grid resilience and next-generation communications. Huh. 70% of the election equipment infrastructure sold to Eaton. Eaton partners with Palantir. Then they partner with Elon. Thank God Donald Trump has never said anything about like Elon rigging the election for him or using the equipment, right?
Just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine.
I don't need any votes. We got all the votes we need. I don't need votes.
We don't need votes. We got more votes than anybody's ever had. You don't have to vote. Don't worry about voting. We can take the Senate pretty easily. And I think with our little secret, we're going to do really well with the House, right? Our little secret is having a big impact.
Did he ever tell us what that little secret was? He said he was going to.
He and I have a secret. We'll tell you what it is when the race is over. You know, computers are the greatest. He looked at some that were just shipped in, some of these vote counting computers. He knew it before it even came in the door. He looked like at the back of it. Oh, I know that.
So Elon struck a partnership with Eaton, who controls 70% of these computers, Trump is calling them. And then Trump says that he worked with them. He was so brilliant. He worked with these computers. Oh, and these computers allowed him to know the results before the results were in. Nothing to see here, right?
We're in SpaceX and quietly just do whatever we want.
What's your assessment? Did this work? Is he going to win?
Yeah, it is. Never know, but never know.
Apparently.
Now that's interesting for a lot of reasons. But that's also what Ashley St. Clair said. Ashley St. Clair referenced SpaceX. Elon was referencing SpaceX to her in terms of the election. You wouldn't normally take Elon Musk's son and be like, it's a toddler. But what he's saying is bizarre for a kid to say. Somehow he's connecting SpaceX. And Elon doesn't appear to be very afraid of sharing the fact that he's using SpaceX to manipulate these elections. So what is it? What did he do? Why is this a story Joe Rogan can tell?
Elon created an app, and he knew who won 4 hours before the results. So as the results were coming in, 4 hours before they called it, Dana White told me Elon was like, I'm leaving. It's over. Donald won.
I watched those numbers. We had Elon with us. Elon is a smart guy. Elon was with us. Elon Musk. And I was sitting with Dana White and Elon Musk, and I'm watching the numbers in Pennsylvania, and we're winning so easily. Then all of a sudden it flatlined. And I said, I think they're cheating again. Look at this. What's going on? I think they're cheating again. And Elon looked at us. He goes, no, you're going to win. They just don't know it yet. And about 15 minutes later, we won, sort of crazy.
Man, how would he know that? Also weird that they didn't call it on election night, right? It'd take a little while. I guess no, it was 2020. They did call it election night. Never mind.
And he knows those computers better than anybody, all those computers, those vote counting computers. And we ended up winning Pennsylvania like in a landslide. So it was pretty good. So thank you to Elon.
How come Republicans down ballot lost all those races? Any ideas on that? How is it that like Arizona, for example, how did Trump win in Arizona, but Democrats won down ballot? Win the governorship, Senate, Attorney General. Any idea how that happened outside of cheating?
You're fucked, dude. I'm fucked. If we lose,
let's go back there.
It was pretty good. So thank you to Elon.
You're fucked, dude. I'm fucked. If we lose, I'm fucked.
All right. We're going to go a little bit over. I'm going to try not to stop this. Just a reminder, guys, we are crowdfunded. We've almost got that gift goal wiped out. If you guys could help me out, I'm going to try not to interrupt this next one for too much because this is a long video. But one of the things that they talked about in that article, let me pull that back up one more time. One of the things that we talked about here, this in 2004, the use of Diebold equipment, despite concerns it had been compromised. The CEO promised to deliver the election to Bush. Investigators later discovered the use of an Ohio mirror site on election night, a hack similar to the 2024 fake county vote banks. A mirror site would be a site that mirrors like a legitimate site, right? So we saw that, and we saw some of that in 2024. And this is honestly fucking terrifying. This has been picked up everywhere now. This is the Dre dossier. If you don't follow the Dre dossier on Substack and YouTube, I highly recommend that you do. And she has found some very troubling information about what's happening in the executive branch currently. And again, I'll try not to stop this because I know we don't have a lot of time. And this is like a 30-minute video. So I'll try my best not to interrupt too much unless I need to answer questions. But if you guys could help us while we continue to knock out that gift goal, that'd be greatly appreciated. PayPal, Cash App, Venmo, or Super Chats are the way to go. I'll try to only interrupt for those types of questions. Here we go.
The analogy I give is an Apple Store-like experience. What if the government had great design, amazing usability, running on modern software? At its biggest mandate, it's in the next 3 years, how do we touch every digital surface of the United States government? And the private sector's reached out as well. So the support of Founders Fund and Peter Thiel, A16Z and Mark Andreessen, 8VC and Joe Lonsdale, Thrive and Josh Kushner.
This is Jamar says early voting in Nevada is open. Go vote.
And at civilization scale.
That, my friends, is Joe Gebbia. He runs one of the most dangerous...
Good question, Mindy. Let's say they did steal it. How can we stop it from happening in 2028? Dre Dossier is going to tell us about that.
offices in the White House
Thank you,
right
Pumpkin
now,
Jewel.
and it's called the National Design Studio. Yeah, this is
Danielle
what
said, remember, Dieball became ES&S in 1979. ES&S provides 70% of our tabulation systems today. 99% of all votes were counted by the tabulation machines. Thank you.
I like to call DEFCON 1 territory, okay? Because what I believe they are doing is building a parallel federal government inside the executive branch on private infrastructure. And it is all being built by the same people who got sued the last time they touched any federal data. Now, I've been investigating the National Design Studio for the better half of 2 weeks now, and what I have found, especially over the last few days, has shaken me to my core. Honestly, it has made me very scared. Okay, and this investigation is going to go pretty deep, okay? So I need you to stay with me here, please. Stay focused, because the deeper this goes, the worse it gets. Now, if you've been watching my channel for any amount of time, then you'll know that over the past few months, I've been covering two main stories. The first being this ballroom that's going up in place of the East Wing and the military apparatus that they are building underneath it, which Donald Trump has admitted on camera goes 6 stories underground and includes a military hospital and research facilities, etc., etc.
What you don't see are the floors that are beneath here, and they have very, very important rooms down there. The most important. We went down 6 stories.
And the second is the Genesis mission, which is the federal AI program, which I believe is being built around Oracle and the largest supercomputer in American history, called Solstice. And I've been saying for a while now that these 2 stories are connected, but there has to be some layer in between. You know, some piece of digital infrastructure that is linking the underground hardware to the data that's being assembled by the AI program. And it is through my investigation of the National Design Studio that I think I found that layer. And I found it almost by accident.
This is
which
Fallout.
doesn't make it any more pleasant, but here we are. So earlier this week, I was perusing Trump RX, right, as one does, the new federal prescription drug pricing website. I was curious. I just wanted to see what they had going on. So I was scrolling around, and at the bottom of the page, I noticed something that I have not noticed on any other federal website. In the footer of the page, it said, right above the privacy policy, designed and engineered in DC by National Design Studio. The whole website, by the way, looks like it was created on Wix with widgets, and it's bizarre. But that line in particular is pretty weird, because federal websites don't have design by lines. I mean, the IRS does not credit the design studio for that website, neither does Social Security or the FBI. Like, nobody does that with federal government websites. Moreover, the design studio is hyperlinked to it. So when you click on it, it takes you to the National Design Studio's website, which I don't love, and in a minute, you're going to see why. Now,
I think she covers it, but the National Design Studio was an executive order by Donald Trump creating National Design Studio, which would, the idea was to like streamline all of these government processes, specifically online. So the total redesign and revamp of government websites.
National Design Studio, which I'll be referring to as NDS.
Is Dre the one who stays on Larry Ellison's neck? Yes.
This video reads more like a tech startup than anything else. And the site itself doesn't really tell you much beyond the mission statement language and recruiting copy. Like, it's very boilerplate and very in your face with how hip and cool it is. You know, very Silicon Valley. And there was no page telling you about who was on the team or who was running it. So I had to do a little digging, and the first name that came back to me was somebody named Joe Gebbia. He is known as the Chief Design Officer of the United States.
Anybody know that name? Joe Gebbia?
working with NDS. Now, you probably have never heard of Joe Gebbia. Lord knows I hadn't before this. But fear not, he's the co-founder of Airbnb. So, if anybody knows how to improve public spaces, it's the company that took residential spaces and made sure the public could never actually afford them again. He stepped back from Airbnb in 2022, but it's the years since then and now that really interest me, because in September of
By the way, Peter Thiel, all these PayPal Mafia people, they were like initial investors in Airbnb. They're all connected.
2022, Tesla appointed him to their board of directors. Yes, in fact, the seat he took had just been vacated by Larry Ellison. Yes, that Larry Ellison, the founder and chairman of Oracle. And hold on to old Larry Berry and Oracle in the back of your head, okay? Because this is going to come back up in a moment. Then in August of 2025, Donald Trump signed an executive order creating a brand new federal office called the National Design Studio. This is also when he created the brand new federal title to go with it, the Chief Design Officer of the United States. And Joe Gebbia was named that title on day one, and he reports directly to the White House Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, which is bizarre. Right? I mean, a national design studio reporting to the White House Chief of Staff, like that's not how this works. Why is it working like that? Well, it's because the National Design Studio is staffed under a federal hiring authority called Section 3161, which was originally written for temporary advising bodies. And since they're working under that authority, that means almost everyone working at the National Design Studio is either a part-time advisor or a volunteer. You know how billionaires like to volunteer their time for federal design agencies.
This is how billionaires get their tentacles into our government without having to go past Senate confirmation or disclosure. There's a loophole here where they can come in as advisors, and then they, like Palantir has done, they just kind of copy and paste everything and get their tentacles into everything, and then they get out of there, and there's never any investigation into what they're doing.
And so they don't show up on the White House salary report, nor do they file any financial disclosures that the public, who has a financial stake in what they're doing, can see. They were also not confirmed by the Senate, and they answer to no inspector general because the executive office of the president does not have one. Well, where have I heard this before? See, a brand new office inside the White House, staffed by people who are invisible to the federal disclosure process, answering to no independent oversight. Where have I heard that before? Oh, that's right, because that's exactly how Doge was run. And Doge, lest we forget, in its very short, very horrific run, gutted federal agencies, fired tens of thousands of career civil servants, and is currently the defendant in multiple federal lawsuits. And more specifically, those lawsuits are for letting engineers access Social Security data and the Department of Homeland Security data and share that sensitive federal data with outside parties trying to overturn elections. That Doge. And what do you know? I found in my investigation that Joe Gebbia was also a member of Doge. Yep, he spent a whole 6 months there before his current position. And one of the initiatives that he personally led at Doge was the digitization of the federal retirement paperwork. And this is actually where it gets really interesting and connects a little bit to some of this East Wing ballroom underground bunker stuff. See, the records he was trying to digitize live in a place called Iron Mountain. About an hour north of Pittsburgh, in a town called Boyers, Pennsylvania, there's a limestone mine 220 feet underground. And the federal government has been using this limestone mine as a retirement office since 1960.
Guys, Doge was the oversight. Oh my, how are you wrong about everything? Doge was just a way to steal all our information without oversight. They were not the oversight. They literally gave us publicly available data that we already have and fired a bunch of people, and now it's costing our government millions of dollars. We've had to rehire tons of those people because our government would have fallen apart, and now they're being sued in like 7 different cases. That's crazy that you're still defending Doge.
What do I mean by that? Well, the Office of Personnel Management, OPM, keeps 450 employees working down there full-time, alongside 26,000 filing cabinets holding over 400 million paper records, processing about 10,000 federal retirements every month by hand. And I know the first thought that comes into a lot of people's minds is, why the hell do we have that? Like, why do we still have physical paperwork for processing people's retirements? And the reason is not because we technologically have not been able to digitize it. I mean, every administration since Reagan has tried to digitize these records, and every single one of them has failed for a multitude of reasons. It's because in order
Rolly
to
Poliolo said, Oracle's put giant boxes called roving edge high up in American cities for mass surveillance. You don't see them, but they see you.
Do it correctly, meaning lawfully, with the legal protections that the Federal Office of Personnel requires.
Doge had no legal authority to fire, only provided data. Well, they still fired people without legal authority, and yes, they were wrong on all of that. And so what are you saying? That the administration, the Don, was too stupid to realize that these were bad decisions too? He hired shitty people and then made shitty decisions. What are you getting? What are you grasping at here? Doge was a catastrophic failure.
Genuinely a very expensive thing to do, and it's politically very contentious. Because the reality is that physical paperwork in a mine has a different level of protection than digitized paperwork. And so Joe Gebbia and his team over at Doge said, we can do it, and they started to move these records onto the digital infrastructure that the White House now controls. Yeah, instead they just worked around the legal guardrails and called it a day. Now, I wanted to learn more about what he was doing with National Design Studio. So I started this investigation like I do all of them, by following the money. Except I hit immediate roadblocks because I remembered that this is all being done off the books, right? Just like Doge did. I mean, there are no contracts on USA Spending. The office is not registered on sam.gov. As a federal procurement entity, the National Design Studio doesn't technically exist, which is probably the point. You know, because it was certainly the point with Doge, so I don't see why it would be any different here. And so I did what I always do when I can't follow the money. I followed the data instead. I promise you, following the data is just as good as following the money, and you can't cover it up as easily because data always leaves behind residual data. It leaves behind a little trail, like dust on furniture that you think you just cleaned. And so when I was thinking through how I was going to follow the data for this investigation, that pattern recognition part of my brain started tingling, you know, because I remembered what Larry Ellison's company had been doing for the last decade. I remember reading about the time that Oracle ran this network of tracking tools that were embedded across the internet to build what they were internally calling digital dossiers. And basically they were these files of very sensitive information on people containing like where you lived, where you bank, what you buy, your political views, your race, like everything. And Oracle's CEO Larry Ellison at one point in 2015 was even publicly bragging on stage claiming that the company had dossiers on roughly 5 billion people. And I go into these—
Cool. And we gave them tax cuts. And we gave them access to our government infrastructure. And we gave them all of our data. Cool. America first. Danielle said, it already happened again in the Tennessee special and Florida special elections in 2025, and in the most recent primaries in Kentucky and Louisiana all show the same red flags that we saw in 2024. Yeah, Danielle, I'm waiting for, will you send that to me? I was looking for that this morning. I'm not going to get to it today anyways, but I was going to message you about that. I remember I think you sent it to me once before, but I need to look at it again.
Digital dossiers in more depth in another video, which I recommend watching after this. But the TLDR is this. In 2022, Oracle got sued in federal court for building those files without consent. And in July of 2024, they had settled for $115 million and shut the entire operation down. But that operation was obviously valuable enough to Ellison that he ran it for over a decade and only quit when he was forced to. And so I just think it's, I don't know, funny timing that 5 months after Oracle exits the dossier business, Joe Gebbia joins Doge in the White House. You know? And now 6 months later, he's running the National Design Studio with a lot of the same framework that Doge had. And so my question was simple. What if that same playbook is running here on federal websites with federal data? And the only place that question gets answered is in the code. So I went and looked at the code behind these government websites. So I started with TrumpRx, you know, since that was the site that got me here. Now, code can be very overwhelming to look at, right? But the way that I think about it is that every web page, whenever you load it, is making phone calls. Not to people exactly, but to other servers.
One of my favorite parts about playing videos like this is watching MAGA, just like they can't keep up or they lose interest. So they just like start talking about DEI and Doge. Like, guys, if you don't, you can just go somewhere else. If this is too high level for you, just bounce. But can you, mods, feel free to, anybody who's just spamming the chat or saying shit that isn't relevant, like let's stay on topic.
On the internet, you know, dozens per second, all of that invisible to you unless you click inspect. And so I right-clicked on TrumpRx, opened the browser's built-in inspector, jumped over to the applications, and started reading the list. And that's when I saw that mixed in with the normal calls were calls that were going out to a company called PostHog. Upon further investigation, I found that PostHog is a Silicon Valley analytics company whose whole business model is recording what visitors do on a website and selling it back.
In layman's terms, everything you're doing on government websites is going to a private business now. Cool. Muting has fascist undertones? No, it has gentle parenting undertones. If just like if you were in a college course that you didn't understand and you were just talking about something else, we would just have you go somewhere else. We really don't want the distractions.
to whoever owns the website. And this page was calling out to Post Hog over and over and over again. I mean, I had just opened the page and was more or less just sitting there. And to the best I can read it, the page was already on the phone with Post Hog telling them everything about me. And so I looked a bit closer at what instructions Trump RX was actually giving to Post Hog. And what it was doing was recording my session with the IP address not stripped, meaning that it was not anonymized. And here's what's really interesting, because these session recordings were being disguised to make it look like they were going back to Trump RX to your browser. But in actuality, there's a script in the JavaScript that is actually forwarding it to Post Hog. And the thing is that
cool, right? They're just passing on all this information. They just allowed a backdoor in so they can collect profiles on all of you. Not our government, some private company. Cool. Her name's Dre Dossier. I've seen her before. She's a dumbass Democrat. Yeah, I'm not surprised that a woman speaking in a way that you don't understand infuriates you. It's got to be tough for you. She's fucking brilliant. I had to watch this video like 5 times to understand it. There's no shot that any of you MAGA that are saying she's stupid could explain any of this. She's using words I don't like. She's a dumbass.
that companies have been using to get past.
Even worse, not Trump is selling information, chat. It's worse than that. Trump probably doesn't even know. There's just a backdoor and they're getting the information. Maybe they're paying Trump. I don't know. But they're able to just take every bit of anything you do on these websites. They're getting access to that information.
Blockers for ages, right? But this is not the kind of thing that you expect to see on a federal drug pricing website. And so I'm alarmed, right? And I decided to go look at the other websites that this office had built to see if it was doing the same thing. And what do you know? Yeah. It is. I mean, this includes the realfood.gov, the federal food policy site, Trump accounts, the Trump Children's Safety.
Thank you, Gail. Big W for Gail for the Venmo. Said, I'm terrified for our future, but deeply grateful for your work. Thank you for connecting dots others won't, following the evidence and helping ordinary people understand what's happening. Your research gives me hope when it's hard to find. I think I have more hope now than I did a year ago, for sure. But I understand that feeling. And Gail for the $100 sent over on Venmo. Appreciate that.
Savings program or whatever it is, and even the studio's own homepage, ndstudios.gov. And so all of them have the same vendor, right? The same setup. The IP address is not stripped, the same trick to hide where all the data is going. But I noticed something particular with ndstudio.gov, and it was only on ndstudio.gov. There was this second system that was running alongside PostHog that someone had built entirely by hand, from scratch. It was this long string of code, about 540 lines of JavaScript with a name embedded right into the code. It was called Auto Monitor. Now look, I'm no professional web developer, so I sent it over to a friend of mine who is a web developer and is much more into the computer smarts than I am. And from what he can tell, he said that he thinks that what it does is rewire the part of the browser that handles how a page talks to the outside world. So basically every conversation that the page has with any other server gets copied and forwarded to somewhere else. And we tried to follow that somewhere to see where it ended up, and it turns out it goes to a private backend with no public page. So nobody answers when you knock. Now, I want to be honest about what I can and cannot prove here. From what I can see, Auto Monitor is only loaded on the studio's own homepage.
What has given me hope? I think just the way that people have turned on certain ideas. Like we're turning away from, I think more than ever, we're aware of the effects on money in politics. And in like a very clear way, I think what's happened in Israel and AIPAC specifically have added a lot of clarity for people. I think people realize how money affects politics. I think anybody outside of the MAGA cult, which is dwindling in numbers, recognizes what Donald Trump is doing is flagrantly illegal. I'm literally, as we're speaking, my friend that I worked with Mitt Romney sent me sent me last night like that he had seen John Ossoff, and he's like, Ossoff is what Democrats need more of. Like, I love what Ossoff is saying. He's very clear on that. And it's not like Ossoff's my favorite guy, but there's people that are disaffected, people who are recognizing what's happening in our country, that it's not sustainable, and they're looking for somewhere besides Donald Trump to put some trust. And when everybody in the GOP is just dick riding Donald Trump, it forces them to get outside of the cult and look for different answers. And that gives me hope. Roly Poly Bowler said, look up pixel tracking. These scripts put a tracker on your computer and track everything, including mouse movements. It follows you from site to site, can't be blocked by VPN extensions, etc. It's attached to you. Jesus Christ. Awesome.
Which is kind of weird, right? I mean, if the goal is to surveil Americans, why wouldn't you put it on something like Trump RX? Why put it on a website that almost nobody knows exists? But every post-hog recording on every one of the federal sites that's linked with the NDS website at the bottom, to the best I can read, passes through the studio-controlled infrastructure on its way to post-hog. And so that would mean that the studio has the structural ability to keep a copy of every recording as it passes through. And so this was pretty concerning to me, right? And so the next thing I wanted to know was whether or not there were other sites that the studio just hadn't announced yet. And here's a fun fact that not a lot of people outside of security research knows about. Every website that has that little padlock in the address bar has something called a certificate attached to it. And there's this rule in the industry that anytime a certificate is issued anywhere in the entire world, it has to be logged in a public ledger the second that it's created. And that's right, there are no exceptions and no opt-outs. And the lovely side effect of that rule is that now every new website on the internet, even the ones that nobody's announced yet, or even if it's hidden behind some kind of login, leaves a public fingerprint the moment that it's built. And even more lovely than that is that there's this free search engine called crt.sh where anybody can look up any of these logs. And so I typed in the studio's domain with a wildcard, which is just a little asterisk at the beginning of it as a way of telling it to show me every certificate ever issued for any subdomain under ndstudio.gov. And the search took about 30 seconds, and what it came back with was... yeah, it returned with no less than 40 more entries attached to ndstudio.gov. None of them announced anywhere, with no links pointing them from any public page. And I just need to read some of these names off to you guys, okay? Because these were...
Imagine being like, what are you doing, MAGA? If you don't understand this, ask questions. If you're watching this right now and you're like, this is a great thing. First of all, Donald Trump doesn't understand any of this. So you can still support Donald Trump and be against this because there's no fucking chance he understands any of this. I understand 20% of it, and I've watched it 5 times. And I looked up a whole bunch of shit. There's no chance that Donald Trump understands what's going on. So you can still wear your MAGA hat. But for the love of God, can you just listen for a second? This is troubling. This is the government not... like, we already know we're being surveilled by the government. This is like giving it all away to some evil fucking people who legitimately want to end democracy and have you live as subservient. Wake the fuck up. Take Trump's dick out of your mouth. Keep it in your mouth. Who cares? Maybe then it'll be quieter, but pay attention. This isn't about Democrats or Republicans right now. Wake the fuck up.
That looked like they belonged to different departments, right, of the federal government, like state departments and to NASA and the Department of Homeland Security, but they don't. They, in fact, don't. And I logged all of these in an Excel sheet with the domain, subdomain, when it was first seen, last seen, the certificate issuer.
Rachel said this is both terrifying and fascinating. Thank you. I agree with that.
All of that, which will be available on my Substack. And so if you want to go look any deeper, by all means, have at it. But a few of the ones that were most concerning to me were the ones like nasaforce.staging.ndsstudio.gov, passports.staging.ndsstudio.gov. By the way, staging is typically what developers will put when they're building a website and they've created the certificate, but it's not quite ready. It's the staging website. And the two that really concern me, votegov.previews.ndstudio.
Mods, we're going to go a little long today, so have a little fun. 5-minute mutes for anybody who says Democrat. Just anybody who's talking about Democrats right now, 5-minute mutes at a time. They got to stay on topic.
.gov and FBI Kirk tipline.previews.ndstudio.gov. Now let the record show that these are federal agencies, which means that they do not belong to the National Design Studio, right? These don't belong to the National Design Studio, right? Yeah, well, about that. I checked the public ownership records for each of these subdomains, just to be sure.
Yeah,
and
the FBI
every
Kirk
single
line.
one of them, all 40-something that I could find, traced back to the same place. The Executive Office of the President. Yeah, so the National Design Agency has built pre-launch versions of websites that look like they belong to federal agencies and registered them all to the White House. Because remember, the White House is the executive office. And when things are under the executive office's control, it means that they don't
Once
always...
again, her name is Dre Dossier. This is her YouTube channel, the Dre Dossier, Drey Dossier. She's brilliant. Oh, everybody should follow her.
have to have congressional oversight, i.e. the ballroom. And look, there's a lot we need to unpack about the passport thing and the FBI tip line for Charlie Kirk, and we're going to get into all of that in a second, okay? But first, I needed to know who was running the infrastructure underneath everything. Well, every NDS site had the same label attached, Cloudflare, which is a private company that hosts and protects a huge chunk of the internet. Now, using Cloudflare is not necessarily abnormal for a federal agency, but running 40 federal websites through one single private Cloudflare account is another matter entirely. And all gated preview sites funneled into one single login screen that read loveisaskill.cloudflareaccess.com. Let's read that again. Loveisaskill.cloudflareaccess.com. That is something.
Adorable.
That's something.
I think it's
and
adorable.
That name is just cringy enough where I think I know exactly who is behind that account. All right, and it's Joe Gebbia. And not because he is the chief design studio guy. No. It is because when I was doing research for this, there was a phrase that he had been using publicly time and time again whenever he was describing Airbnb's design philosophy, which is that Airbnb taught him that love is a skill. Sound off in the comments. Do you think love is a skill? And what's really upsetting about this, I think, to me, is that this is the kind of thing you would name an account when it belongs to you.
Doc K, I know your profession. We should be worried about Cloudflare, it sounds like. I don't know that much about Cloudflare. Maybe message me.
You personally.
Excuse me. Empathy is the meaning of life said, been a member for 16 months. Google Analytics and GSA's Analytics was used for 2024. This guy Fox said there's a 0% chance Trump knows about any of this, but please, MAGA, at least be upset that they are using your boy to do this stuff. Yeah. He's not a fleshlight for the tech oligarchs, okay? Have some respect for your guy, Donald. Don't let him be used and abused like this.
Right? If Joe wanted to name his own personal Cloudflare account, love is a skill, but not what you're naming something that belongs to the federal government. Why? Moreover, the federal infrastructure is supposed to be owned by the agency, not the one person running it. I mean, it's not even legal for you to do it that way. When the federal government collects information on its citizens, the law requires a few specific things to happen first. It requires privacy disclosures, which none of these websites have. The privacy policies all contradict each other. It requires notices to the Federal Register, published contracts with any outside vendors so that there's a clear chain of accountability. And I went looking across all 12 National Design Studio programs that were publicly available to see, and I found none of that. I mean, those were the entire point of the laws that Congress wrote after Watergate and after 9/11 to make sure that the federal government could not run secret surveillance programs on Americans. You know, like Larry Ellison pitched 2 weeks after 9/11. Like I said, the only document that they do publish on their websites are these privacy policies. And for example, like on Trump RX, it contradicts itself 2 paragraphs apart. The first paragraph says that PostHog may record its page users' visits and medications that they view. Meanwhile, 2 paragraphs later, it says that they do not collect any health or medical information. I'm sorry, if I'm buying medications, those 2 things cannot be true. Straight to jail, right now. And because this was all pissing me off, I wanted to be very clear at who I was pissed off at. So I started looking for the people who were working at National Design Studio besides Joe. And it wasn't easy to find this information because there's no list anywhere that states who they are, right? But I read the bylines of the studio's blog posts and checked each name against different court filings from 2025. And what do you know? Every senior name came back from the same place. Doge. And there was one name in particular that stopped me. Greg Hogan. Because in 2025, a judge ordered everybody at Doge be blocked from accessing personnel records at the Office of Personnel Management, OPM. However, that order had exceptions. 3 people were allowed to keep their access anyway, and one of those 3 people was Greg Hogan. Yeah, because the administration argued that he specifically was essential to ongoing system work, and the judge just accepted it. And so while every other Doge staffer was locked out, Hogan kept his access to the federal personnel records the entire time. And a year later, he moved from Doge into the National Design Studio. And just last month, he was promoted to run login.gov. Now, login.gov, if you're not aware, is the federal government sign-in system. So if you've ever applied for a federal job or requested your social security records online or filed your taxes wanted to check on how they were doing or, I don't know, filed any federal benefits, you've used it. Or you will use it. I've used used it. Okay, it even scans for biometrics. I've scanned my biometrics on it. You have to turn your head all the different ways. I remember having to do it so many times. Oh my God.
I had to use it
basically
recently.
the
It was
front
actually
door to your
pretty
federal
good.
identity, and more than 150 million Americans have accounts. All right, now the man who survived the OPM injunction is now in charge of that front door. Ring, ring, ring. Do you see where the 5 alarm?
Oh my, what are you doing? Just stick with this. You are so afraid of sitting with your uncomfortability. We're not talking about the benefits of these programs. We're talking about the government handing your information away. Just sit there and be uncomfortable and process it and stop trying to change the subject. Stop it. Just pay attention to what's happening here. You're so desperate to give Donald Trump praise that you're like, what about the good things? We're not talking about that right now.
Fire is here. Another name that I found was Akash Boba, who was one of the original 6 engineers that Musk brought into Doge on day 1, who now also works for the National Design Studio. Which brings me to what happened in October of 2025. Because Akash Boba got on a recorded conference call with the state election directors from across the country and presented the federal voter registration system that the National Design Studio was building. And what he presented was that voters would register through their federal portal, which their identities would be verified through login.gov, of course, which his former colleague Greg Hogan now runs. And their citizenship would be verified through DHS's SAVE database, and their registrations transmitted to the states. And it was on that call that a state election director asked Boba what the data the federal government would retain. And Boba said, and I quote, "I don't know what they retain and what they are logging."
Oh, good.
End quote. Okay, so let me get this straight. The person presenting the federal voter registration system to the state election directors does not know what data his own system keeps on American voters. Okay. And this is important because after the disputed 2000 election in Florida, Congress had passed the 2002 Help America Vote Act with overwhelming bipartisan support. And it created the Election Assistance Commission, 4 commissioners split evenly by party, an inspector general, and FOIA obligations, all written into the law. And the lesson from that was very clear. Voter registration must never sit in...
There's a lot of you that use post-hog. It's interesting. And a lot of you stopped using post-hog. That's like the 3rd person I've said doesn't use post-hog anymore.
Inside the president's White House, period. Why? Oh, I don't know, because giving an incumbent visibility into who is checking registration before an election creates a structural conflict of interest that no functioning democracy can survive. That's why. So Congress built a wall, and that is why today Vote.gov is registered to the Election Assistance Commission as its own separate federal government agency. And at the time of recording this video, that wall is still standing. I think. But here's what I found in the certificate logs. A working preview of Vote.gov had been built inside NDS's studio staging environment. And it's behind the same Cloudflare login, but locked down tighter than any of the other previews. The certificate appeared for that website on April 10th, 2026, and it was isolated deliberately, which means that somebody went out of their way to make sure that nobody could stumble onto it. Well, almost nobody. Now, I think it's worth noting that a few weeks before that certificate appeared, the administration signed an executive order requiring DHS, the Social Security Administration, and the SAVE program to construct a federal citizenship verified voter list. What does that look like? I don't know. But what I do know is that there's a deadline of 90 days from signing, and that deadline is a mere few weeks away. And as of the time of this recording, the Elections Assistance Commission has not publicly said one word about the fact that the White House has built a preview for the website that EAC owns. So either they don't know or they don't care. And I'm really hoping it's the former, in which case, hi, that's what they're doing. Now, before we wrap all of this up, I do want to circle back to that one certificate log entry called FBI Kirk Tip Line, because that one has been bugging me a lot, mostly because I saw that the certificate for that website was issued in March of 2026 for FBI KirkTipline.gov.
This lady deserves a poll. She's incredible. Yeah, she's incredible. And I think that I saw somebody tweet this earlier that they hope that she gets together with the Election Truth Alliance. This is a place where I don't have enough expertise. The reason I wanted to show this is that the one connection she's not making right now is like these dupe sites or these duplicate sites or mirror sites that were used, I believe, in 2024. And she is actually finding the evidence that I think maybe Election Truth Alliance hasn't been able to find on these mirror sites. And I'm hoping that Election Truth Alliance and Dre Dossier are working together now. The interesting thing is both the Election Truth Alliance and the Dre Dossier have been being picked up by much bigger creators and like legitimate like mainstream news organizations. These stories, which we're usually ahead of because of where we get our news, and because I rely heavily on independent journalists, we're usually ahead of this. But this one's moving much faster. The staging sites, the ETA calls them mirror sites, but it's not necessarily the staging sites. She's identifying staging sites, and they're listed as staging sites, but they may be mirroring sites. And I think that's where I don't have the expertise to put those two things together. But it does appear that there's a lot of people much bigger than me that are catching this quickly. Usually stuff from Dre Dossier, it's like on a 4, 5, 6 month delay. Same with Election Truth Alliance. I don't remember when we talked to Election Truth Alliance or when we first covered it, but it has to have been a year ago now. And it's just now that they're getting some traction. ETA would definitely come on the show if you reach out to them. I've reached out to them. They haven't got back to me. I'll try again. But I promise you I've reached out to them to see if they'd be willing to come on the show. They have not. I'll reach out again.
Now, a couple of things don't really add up with that. First of all, it's because in September of 2025, as we all know, the conservative activist Charlie Kirk was shot and killed. And it was Tyler Robinson who was taken into custody 2 days later and formally charged on September 16th. So the suspect was in custody and the charges were filed within the same week. And I know some of you are saying, well, they did have a tip line though, remember? To which I say, yeah, I do remember. But I believe they said specifically,
any videos or photos that you might have, the public, should be submitted to our digital media tip line.
Diet Pepsi, from a technical perspective, I don't understand the issue. Which issue specifically?
Which
I'll see if I can answer. I might not be able to.
Is www.fbi.gov/Utah Valley shooting, all lowercase. Again, that is fbi.gov/Utah Valley shooting, all lowercase. You can also provide general tips about the shooting by calling 1-800-CALL-FBI. That's 1-800-CALL.
John, we are worried about voter fraud. You need evidence of the voter fraud. See, what we're doing is we're providing evidence of the voter fraud. We're literally talking about voter fraud right fucking now. This entire time we've been talking about voter fraud. You need evidence of it. It's what we're talking about. The stuff that you think is evidence of voter fraud has been debunked. 2,000 Mules has been debunked. It's not evidence. Like, we're worried about it, but you've got to give evidence so that we can follow that evidence and fix the fraud. All the shit that you guys talk about is a dead end. What do you want us to do? To take it to court when there's no evidence?
FBI or at tips.fbi.gov.
and so the question I'm left with is, what this
okay, Jesus, election fraud, voter fraud, the voting fraud about voting. Sorry.
tip line was actually going to be used for 6 months after the investigation was closed. And what does that mean for everybody who called the other tip line? Did that get investigated at all? And the second thing I found tonight...
Yeah, I think you missed it there, Diet Pepsi. It's not that there is a staging server. It's that these servers have these staging sites have back doors into private companies who are then taking our data. So specifically the one that she looked at originally was the Trump RX. And all of the data, everything that you're doing on those sites, there's a back door into private sites that are not owned by the government. So the big problem here is the sharing of information. That's the big problem here. When it comes to the mirroring sites, that's a different story, if that's what you're asking about.
Actually, while I was finishing writing the outline for this video, might be the most significant of all. So remember, one of the hidden domains that I mentioned earlier included passports.staging.ndsstudio.gov. And tonight, I just, for funsies, wanted to type in passports.gov to see what kind of website it was shadowing. And instead of taking me to a federal government website, it took me to this page with a pop-up that said, enter your email and we'll send you a 6-digit code. Yeah, no State Department seal, no agency name, no privacy notice, just a big old button that said send code, which obviously I did not put my email in there because what the fuck is that? And so I decided to do another sweep of this website, right? Pull as much information as I could from it. And as it turns out, the first certificate for passports.gov was issued on May 5th. 3 weeks ago. And the sign-in domain that you're looking at right now, the auth.passports.gov, got its first certificate 4 days ago on May 22nd, which would be the craziest thing I ever heard of, except for the fact that while I was finishing writing this like 45 minutes ago, they issued more certificates for a subdomain called photo.passports.gov. Not once, not twice, but 9 separate certificates between 2 a.m. Pacific Standard Time and 3 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Yeah, they are standing this up right now in real time. Okay, so what do I think is happening here? What do I think the purpose of all of this is? I think to me, clearly, the purpose is to pull all of the parts of the federal government that actually touch you away from the agencies that legally own them and rebuild them on an infrastructure that the White House and the executive office fully controls. And once you control the front doors, well, you need somewhere to put all of the data that's going to come through them, right? Somewhere that only the executive office can reach, which is, I think, the entire point of what is being built 6 stories underground in DC under the executive office of the president. And then with that, the Presidential Records Act closes the door right behind it.
Wait, what do you mean? It's a privacy misconfiguration at worst? You expected worse? It's extremely common to have our government websites be backed up by and have a backdoor for that data and browsing data, input data to be housed by an independent outside entity that we have no oversight of. I don't think that's true. Diet Pepsi.
The day that the administration ends, in 2028, God willing, everything seals for the next 12 years. So until 2040, nobody outside the White House gets to see who worked there, what they collected, or what data went where. And look, and I know that sounds all very overwhelming and scary, so here's what I think we can do about it in the meantime. I mean, honestly, the most important thing is to send this information to your representatives. Having them know what's going on is the first step to anything else. Because none of this gets fixed without Congress paying attention. And I don't think Congress is paying attention to the back-end code of these websites. So please send them this video or my Substack article. I've sent everything that I have to the only 2 lawyers I know on Capitol Hill. And so I'm hoping something comes of that. And something else we definitely need to keep an eye on is the day that vote.gov's registration flips over to the executive office of the president, because that's the day that the wall that Congress built after Florida 2000 essentially comes down. And the citizen verification executive order deadline is still a few weeks out. And I think what happens on that day will tell us how far along they actually are. And we also need to, I guess, keep an eye on passports.gov because, oh my God, it seems like they are planning for something right now this week. So please, I beg of you, if you are a more data savvy, tech savvy person than I am, please dig into this with me. And don't worry, every domain, every certificate, every staging environment, every GitHub repository that I found will be linked at the bottom of my Substack article that goes with this video. It's free to subscribe. It's just the most organized place that I can keep it. And help me out because I am but one person and I know that I'm only just scratching the surface with this. Trump told us himself that the ballroom and whatever's being built underneath it is something that he's donating for the future presidents of the United States of America. And that is the one thing I think in this whole story that I can take him at his word on. Because this infrastructure is going to outlast him. And whoever wins in 2028 inherits all of it. The national design...
Yeah, Diet Pepsi, that's the thing. You said government sites seem to be allowed to use analytics, like Google Analytics via digital analytics program. Right. That's not... But I do feel like you're going out of your way to miss the point here. We're talking about a private entity having access to this data without our approval, maybe without the approval of anybody in our government. Maybe nobody knows. And you're saying that the government is allowed to use analytics. Of course they are. That's not the accusation here. Are you saying that what you think this data is going is to a private analytics company that the government then can use? Is that what you're saying?
Studio says its job is to redesign how Americans experience their government. But I think the job that they're actually redesigning is how the government experiences its citizens. Meanwhile, the only thing that they really rebranded were Oracle's dossiers.
Okay, there's Dre dossier. We went a little over today. We get that. I appreciate who was that in there that was clearing things up. Again, not something that I know a great deal about. This is news to me, and just trying to make that connection between the Election Truth Alliance. I guess Smart Elections Danielle recommended using as well. Let's see. I'll listen to your voice notes a little bit later. We'll have more on the election stuff. It's going to become a big story, especially as Congress is out of session. So I would expect that I'm not the only person that's going to be talking about this in the coming weeks, and hopefully I'll have more clarity. I wanted to do it while it was fresh, but certainly not an expert on that myself. So I'll have more hopefully tomorrow and every weekday morning, 9:30 a.m. to 1 Pacific Standard Time, right here on YouTube and Twitch. Looks like we'll be back on TikTok tomorrow. Our ban was overturned, so that is great news. Remember, we're just Monday through Thursday this week. I'm off on Friday. Jen's gone now, so you're not going to hear from Jen. If you'd like to join us for members-only content, make sure you're a paid subscriber either on YouTube or Twitch. That also goes a long way. Even if you don't want to join us for the events, those memberships start at $5, and it allows us to kind of project into the future so that we can build out certain stuff. I've got a new setup coming that will look a little better, where we can get guests on, and hopefully we'll be doing some more deep dives and perhaps some stuff on the road this summer. We'll see what happens. But until I see you guys tomorrow morning, take care of yourselves. Go outside and touch grass. If you can't touch grass, smoke grass. If you can't smoke grass or touch grass, best of luck to each and every one of you. Look yourself in the mirror and say something nice to yourself. Self-talk's very important. Be nice to your friends and your family. Drink lots of water. Put your boots on the ground after you pull yourself up by those bootstraps. And until I see you tomorrow morning bright and early, take care of yourselves, stay cute and cool, and have a great summer.